Morning. Welcome back to day 7 of the Darrell Brooks Waukesha Parade Massacre trial. Um, Yesterday was interesting. Uh, Brooks did what was possibly it might go down as the most infamous sovereign citizen courtroom rant I've ever heard. Um, And as his bad behavior continues to ramp up as the trial goes on, I'm anxious to see what happens today. We're a bit behind again this morning, but good morning, Static. Uh, so we're a bit behind. We'll make up the time, at least by lunch, I hope, barring any technical difficulties. In setting up the video, rewound the 15 minutes we're behind. It looks like he's already in epic form before the jury's brought out. Um, and before we get started, uh, before Static and Steve get at me for being a bad YouTuber, do all the YouTubey things, like, subscribe, share, do all that. Um, and while I tell you how bad a YouTuber I am, I have a couple friends that I share sovereign citizen videos with sometimes, and I wanted to share yesterday's rant with them, but I didn't want to bother finding a timestamp in my own video, so I sent them Law Talk with Mike's. Gave him the view. So, morning, Steve. And so, with all that out of the way, let's jump right into it. Morning, Grip. And the thing is, it it would be
Darrell
very
Brooks, case
hard
number
for it to
21
be a
CF
mistrial because it's
1848.
him.
Appearances,
If
please.
his lawyers did something stupid,
Zach
that would
Witchow.
be one thing. If the prosecutors
Sir,
did
state your
something
name for the
stupid,
record, please.
but his
I'm here as a third
behavior
party intervener in the
is on
matter.
him.
In this matter, as authorized representative for my client, I accept for value and return for value all of the charging instruments in this matter and make my
Morning,
exemption
Darlene.
available for discharge of all obligations and charges connected with this case.
That's
I do not dispute
that
any
was
of
my
the
guess
facts
from
in the charging
rewinding.
instruments. And for the record, I do not consent to
I
or
figured
agree to
he's
being
on
called
form
that
just
name
from
that
watching
you
his
have
gestures
identified here.
in reverse.
The record should reflect that the individual known to this court as Darrell Brooks is present in person in custody in street clothes, specifically a suit and tie
Full
and
record.
a mask. I just also want to make a record quickly that a number of documents were left by Mr. Brooks in the holding area just outside the courtroom. They have been put on his desk today. It's all of the autopsy protocols that were provided to him yesterday, the hard copies, that is, the diagrams that were presented in court related to those protocols, and a copy of the pretrial offer. So I just wanted to make that record. Hold on, not right yet, please. So I have been advised that all of the jurors are here and ready to go. I presume the state has available its next witness.
Yes. We'd also move State's Exhibit 162A into evidence.
As to 162A, Mr. Brooks? Any position on that?
What are the bets?
Yeah, I haven't even seen it.
Does the
First of all,
prosecution
second of all,
rest
again,
today?
for the record,
Mr. Brooks, I'm just dealing
And
only
if they
with
do, is
the
Brooks ready for
exhibit
his
right
opening
now.
statement?
Sorry for the interruption,
If
but
he
I need
gives an
to
opening statement.
do that without interruption from you. 162A was a screen capture that related to an annotation that a witness made.
So
I
you
believe
did
that
see
was
it
during
yesterday.
witness number 34. Yes, that was Mr. Hallmark. And so based upon that, Exhibit 162A is received, and I will so advise the
Was
jury
Mr. Hallmark,
when they come in.
was he the police
Sir, I'm not going to address
officer
any
that
preliminary matters at this point. I've already addressed
marched with the
a number
Catholic
of things
group?
yesterday. The jury is to be brought out.
No, there was some things that we discussed about the paperwork from yesterday.
We'll take that up on a break. You can look over it. You can make a note and pass it to
I've
my.
already.
I
I've
doubt
already
it really
looked over
needs to
now,
be
with all
discussed.
respect. I think there's some things.
Mr.
that
Brooks,
need-
I'm not going to deal with it right now.
It needs-
It's paperwork. I just wanted it notated that you left it and now it's being
I'm
provided to you
I'm
again.
not referring to that
It's
paperwork.
I'm
very
not dealing with the
possible. I don't
paperwork
know
from
how
the
many
clerk's office either.
witnesses
I am
they
not
have
the
left,
custodian.
so
We're going to bring the jury out.
Okay, but
I don't
she-
know.
Mr.
she
Brooks?
should know that she's trying
Mr.
to
Brooks,
get me to pay.
stop. I
She's
am
trying
not
to get me to pay
addressing it.
something. It
Oh,
has to
oh.
be addressed.
All right,
She's
I'm
trying
gonna
to get
take
you to
a quick
pay
break and make sure
something?
the jury's ready.
You
and we'll
mean
go.
like
Address it
every
now.
other person? Like every other person has to pay for records from the court clerk? You think you're special? I'm okay. That's a good point, Steve. I forgot about that they're taking a field trip, and they are going to, yeah, they're going to see the SUV at a secure location, and I imagine they'll close off Main Street. They'll put up those barricades that Mr. Brooks is so fond of, even though, they only blocked him at his entrance. The
Right, thank
barricades
you. The
on the
jury
side
can come on
streets
out.
didn't matter.
So we're not gonna address this civil matter?
No,
I was
Good
told
morning,
that there was
Si.
something under a civil statute.
Mr. Brooks, I am not the
This isn't
custodian.
a
Bring it up with the clerk
civil-
of court.
How
I'm
am I
not
bringing
addressing
it up with
it.
the clerk of court? How am I supposed to do that?
That's up
So
to
that
you.
makes me wonder is what's being, if it's a
Mr.
civil
Brooks, the
case,
jury's coming out. I'm not
If
going to
it's-
address your request
if
for
it's
open
civil-
records.
if it's
That's,
civil,
I'm
then
not
it
the
needs to
custodian
be
of the records,
who's being
sir.
sued. My Cestui Trust is being
No,
sued.
no one's being sued.
Civil is a
Mr.
civil
Brooks, this
matter.
is an
This
irrelevant
isn't
matter that you're
civil.
attempting to bring up
No
in the
one's being
presence of the
sued.
jury. The
You are
record
being
should
criminally
reflect these
prosecuted.
Before the
interruptions.
jury came out, Your Honor.
And I told you I wasn't going to address it. Please.
Okay, so it's a civil matter.
No,
Who's being sued? My
No
Cestui
one
Trust, because
is
how
being
can I be
sued.
Mr. Brooks, you're talking about an irrelevant matter between you and the
It
clerk of
wasn't, it
court.
wasn't irrelevant
So-
when I got the paperwork from the clerk of courts. I was simply
Mr.
trying
Brooks,
to address it.
I'm not going to address it. The jury will
So I'm
disregard
being
these
sued.
irrelevant
This is a civil
comments.
matter.
Seriously.
We haven't addressed subject
All right,
matter
thank you,
jurisdiction yet at all either?
Everyone, please be
They
seated.
have discussed
The jury will
We're not gonna
disregard the
address subject
statements
matter.
Mr. Brooks is making about subject matter jurisdiction. They are a
She
misstatement of the law.
has
Yes.
subject matter
All right, and-
jurisdiction.
Just like this is a civil case.
Mr. Brooks, the
It's
jury's
not a
here.
civil
Please
case.
show
This is a civil
respect
case.
and decorum.
According to this document, this is a
Mr.
civil
Brooks,
case,
It's
please
not.
stop.
which means someone is being sued.
No.
Civil
Mr.
No,
Brooks, you're
you are
talking
being
about an
criminally
irrelevant
prosecuted.
I have the
matter. I'm
paperwork
starting
sent
the
by paper
trial.
courts right here that says it's a civil matter.
Mr. Brooks
So
has
what's being
nothing to
sued?
do with
My
this
Cestui
case.
Trust is being sued.
I have no idea what you're talking about. So, all
I got the paperwork right here.
right, I'm going to
Well,
excuse
well,
the
then
jury
it's-
right now, given this disruption.
Then it's something irrelevant
I'll
to
rise
this
for the
case.
jury.
If there is a civil case, that's not this one. There can be
Should
two
probably
things.
addressed before
You can be
even
criminally
went out.
charged and
That's why I
civilly
tried to properly
sued.
address it before we even went on the record.
Mr. Brooks, stop.
She
I'm
told
not
you
gonna-
this isn't the
this is-
time.
You are not
I
being
was given
respectful
this
to
paperwork
this
by you, Your
proceeding
Honor,
or to
with
this
all
jury.
respect.
No,
With
it's
all
not.
due
With all
respect.
due respect,
With all due
stating that doesn't
respect,
make it
I was given
respectful.
this paperwork by
Exactly.
you
Mr.
from
Brooks,
Monica Paz.
stop talking
The
till the
clerk of
jury
court.
is out.
Okay,
Thank you.
so why couldn't we address this before they came out?
I'm
That
not
was the
going to
time-
address it.
That was
Bottom
the time
line.
to address it, though. We're supposed to do all the addresses before the jury comes out, before we start the matter.
She
Please be
doesn't have
seated.
to address it.
Paperwork that was given to me by you, Your Honor. That states that
Mr.
this-
Brooks,
it states that
you
this
have
is a
interrupted
civil
me
matter.
repeatedly. You are on the verge
Gag
of being
him.
removed to that courtroom. I don't want to
On-
do
on
that.
what-
I want you to stay here.
On what
But
fact of the
you
law, Your
keep
Honor?
interrupting me and
Illinois
bringing up
versus
irrelevant
Allen.
matters. I
Gag
told you
him.
yesterday as a courtesy that was provided to you so that you would frankly not complain that you didn't get it as quickly as possible. Okay, I am not the custodian of the records. If you have an issue with what was provided to you, how it was provided to you, then take it up with the clerk of
She
court.
can't
But
charge
from
you.
now on, I am not going to be the messenger and give you documents that you request to the custodian of the records or from the custodian of the records. They will simply have to be delivered to you at the jail. But that is in response to your discussion or whatever we want to call it this morning. I'm not taking it up. All right. It is irrelevant.
It needed to be noted.
No, it didn't.
It doesn't
Because
need
it
to be
was-
noted, sir.
You
All right.
gave
The
it to
jury's
me-
coming
you gave
back
it to me
out,
in
and I'm
open
going
court.
to warn you, if you bring this
She-
up again,
her-
I will pause
Her
and
patience
I will remove you to the
ended
next
after
courtroom for being
yesterday's rant.
disrespectful, for being interruptive, for being disruptive, and for bringing up irrelevant matters in front of this jury. You will forfeit your right to be present for the direct examination of this witness.
Exactly.
Did you hear what I said,
No,
sir?
I did not. I object to that, Your Honor.
Who cares?
Well, you can
And-
object, and your objection is noted, but if you
For the
interrupt
record-
when this jury
For
comes
the
out,
record,
they
Stop
will go,
interrupting the judge.
I will have them taken out again, and you will be removed to the next
For the-
courtroom.
you can't, what is the legal basis for that?
Illinois versus Allen.
Illinois versus Allen, sir, and all of the
And-
other cases that
and it
I've
doesn't
cited
say
previously.
anything-
I'll make the appropriate record. Stop interrupting me. The jury's coming out. We're continuing with this trial despite your repeated efforts to disrupt.
That's a
Yesterday,
mischaracterization
sit
of the
down.
record.
Yesterday alone, sir, 17
Exactly,
interruptions,
Darlene.
not including the
Oh, she
opportunity that I
counted.
gave you where you spent 15 minutes
She counted.
discussing what were primarily either irrelevant or baseless accusations and requests not based in law or fact. I was abundantly patient with you yesterday.
And you still
And
have
that
to verify
patience
by
has
proof any of
ended.
what I
And
said,
none
Your
of that
Honor.
is required,
has
sir.
ended.
Yes, it is. You
She's
can't verify
done.
Your
it.
belief
Where's
that
the
that's the
subject matter-
law
where's the subject matter
doesn't make it
jurisdiction?
so, Mr. Brooks. Your belief that these are legitimate legal positions
They are.
doesn't change the law and doesn't make it so.
I need to do
So,
a
again,
Relevant
stream
because you didn't want to
I'm
address
going
it.
to step off and give Mr.
discussing
Brooks
the
5 minutes to
sovereign
cool off.
citizen
And when
I-
that
I don't
happens,
need
I'm
to
bringing
cool
the
off. I'm
jury
that
not-
out.
angry
there's
at all.
only
will-
common
just
law
wanted to- I
and
don't-
admiralty jurisdiction. Because frankly, their myth comes from the Constitution. So it's only referring to Article 3 federal courts, but it's also a misreading of Article 3 because it lays out all the cases that, or all the types of cases that federal Article 3 federal courts have jurisdiction over specifically. But it's a list of like 5 or 6 things. I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but it says we have jurisdiction, federal courts have jurisdiction over this, comma, and this, comma, and this, comma, and this, comma, and admiralty or maritime cases, comma, or so when I said and it was we have these cases, comma, these cases, comma, these cases, comma, maritime, comma, or cases arising in common law. So that is an Oxford comma situation. It's not this or this, it's this, or this. But they are too stupid to realize what a list is. But once again, that's for federal cases in federal court. This is state court. The state legislature, as enacted by the governor through the state constitution, determines which courts can hear which cases arising out of state law. The Wisconsin state government has deemed that this court is the proper court with the proper jurisdiction in the proper venue to hear felony criminal cases in Waukesha County. Done. That's it. It's an easy analysis. Exactly, Steve. They cherry pick, and even Black's Law second edition. It doesn't say what they think it does because they use the word employed in a different way than today's most common usage. Although to even today, it's not incorrect to say someone employed in driving an automobile. It doesn't necessarily mean that's their job. It means they're doing this. It is a somewhat archaic form of the word employed, but it's not wrong. And the funny thing is, I'd make an argument that even if driving had to be a commercial activity, which it doesn't, they think because it's, the Commerce Clause is most commonly used as the hook to bring laws into federal jurisdiction. But I'd argue driving is inherently commercial because you look at Supreme Court case law, and there are cases where there was someone in California before marijuana was legal anywhere. I think it's a 1980s case. I can't remember the citation, but someone was growing marijuana for personal use, and they were charged with a federal crime, marijuana being illegal through the Commerce Clause. This person argued, this isn't commercial. I'm growing it for personal use. It's not going into the stream of commerce. The Supreme Court said, no, 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 because you're growing it yourself as a substitute for buying marijuana in commerce. Therefore, it's a commercial activity even for personal use. Therefore, it's still illegal under this law enacted under the Commerce Clause. And then there's a Great Depression case where a farmer grew more wheat than he was allowed because in order to keep wheat prices high to protect farmers, the federal government under the Commerce Clause limited the amount of wheat that farmers could grow. This farmer grew his allotment, but then he grew more for personal use. And he was still fined.
Thank you, everyone. Please be
because
seated.
They said, well, that's a substitute
The
for
jury can be brought
what
up, please.
would have gone into commerce. So I say driving is inherently commercial because you're buying gas. That's commercial. You're buying a car. That's commercial. It's all commercial. Exactly, Steve. It's the right to travel is you have the right to receive. Like, if I moved to California and applied for their Medicaid, if I were otherwise eligible, they couldn't say no because you're a Utah resident. No, I've moved to California. I have the right to travel to California and to establish residence. That's what the right to travel is. It's the right to cross state lines and with slightly more restriction to cross international boundaries. He's just going to obstruct until ooh, sounds like sirens outside my house. But he's going to be removed. It's just going to happen.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, while you were not with us, the state moved Exhibit 162A, and I did receive it. With that, who do we have on the witness stand?
The state calls Assistant Chief Craig Lehrman.
All right, sir, would you please stand and raise your right hand, and my clerk, Teresa, will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Please be seated. Sir, the first thing I will ask you to do is to state your first and last names for the
If
record
he
and spell
continues
each.
on,
Sure. First name Craig,
the odds are very
Craig.
high.
Last name Lehrman, Lierer.
because the judge's patience has
Thank you.
ended.
Go ahead, your witness.
Thank you. I'd like to direct your attention to Sunday, November 21st of 2021. Did you attend the Waukesha Christmas parade that day?
Yes, I did.
Were you alone or with other people?
I was with my family.
Overruled.
Could you say that again?
I was with my family.
And I see you're wearing a uniform today. What do you do for a living?
I'm assistant chief with the Franklin Police Department.
Of the
Were you
Franklin Police
at the
Department.
parade in your law enforcement capacity?
I was not.
Why were you there?
I was there to attend the parade just to get in the Christmas mood.
Okay. And did you have any family members participating in the parade?
I did not.
Where were you standing or observing the parade?
I know I've said it
I
before.
was
I
standing
really
on
like
West
this
Main
young
Street,
prosecutor.
very near the intersection of Maple.
He's
just to
been
the west of Maple.
absolutely
Do you
excellent.
know if you were on the north side or the south side of Main Street?
I was on the south side of Main Street.
Will you please put up for the jury exhibit number 15, which has previously been received and published?
Go ahead. Overruled.
I mean, if it's already in evidence, the judge has ruled that it's relevant.
And could we zoom in on the bottom left quadrant here? Do you recognize the area on the map that you're looking at?
Yes.
All
What does
right.
it depict?
This is the diagram we've
It's
seen
map
many
of the parade route.
times.
Christmas parade out.
Map of the
Could
parade
you
with the
draw a little X for
diagram
us,
showing
if you can find
the
where you were
injuries,
standing with your family?
fatalities, police barricades.
Overruled.
Do you want me to go up and touch the map? Is that how
Oh,
it
at the
works, or-
screen in front of you. I'm sorry. The screen in front of you is a
Okay.
touch screen. You can use your finger.
Sure. Okay.
Overruled.
I would be right, basically right there, just west of the intersection with Maple.
I
by
live
maybe
in the
20 to 50 feet.
path of
Okay. Southwest corner, Maple and Maine.
one of
Yes.
the
We can
two
clear that. then,
largest
please.
hospitals.
Could we now please display for
And
the
there's
jury exhibit 56,
fire
which has
stations
also been
on
previously received?
both to my east and to my north. So we get a lot of fire trucks and ambulances. Not a lot of
This is,
cops because it's a nice
An exhibit
area.
has already been received into evidence. It's obviously a diagram of the intersection we're talking about. Do you recognize this intersection?
All right, this is the diagram that the
Yes, I do.
accident reconstructionist
And could you
officer
point out for us by,
yesterday.
again, drawing a little X
created.
where you and your family were standing?
Yes, it would be approximately right here.
So again, southwest corner of Maple and Maine.
Yes.
Do you recall what happened? We can take that down, please. Do you recall what happened at approximately 4:39 p.m. that Sunday
Ooh,
afternoon?
439.
Overruled.
Yes.
Can you tell us?
Sure. Standing at that location, the parade was coming from my right to my left, so from the east to the west. There was a break in the parade in front of me. To my right was the Milwaukee Dancing Grannies. To my left was a group from the Catholic community of Waukesha, and there was a break in the parade right in front of me, an opening. I heard the crowd become more excited than normal. So I felt like something was coming, but I didn't know what. Didn't know if it was a unusual parade thing or what, but people became more excited, so it kind of grabbed my attention. Then I realized something wasn't quite right. I could see a vehicle traveling from the
Nice.
east to the west. At first, I could only see the top portion of the vehicle from maybe the windshield up, because there was people obviously standing along the route.
Of
so
course,
they kind of
grounds
obstructed
has
my
been
view.
more
Um,
on
but I could see that the
the
vehicle was traveling at a
prosecution's
much
objections during his
faster rate than any of the other
cross-examination.
participants. So clearly something was wrong.
So I'm sure that
Could you describe the vehicle for us?
I'm sure we'll get into a lot of
At first, I could
grounds.
only tell that it was an probably like an SUV because of, again, my vision was obstructed by the people that were standing watching the parade. As I got closer, I could see that it was a red Ford Escape SUV.
What happened as the SUV got closer to you?
As it got closer to me, I could hear that the engine was revving very high. The RPMs were much higher than normal.
Showing
almost like it was,
acceleration.
maybe in the wrong gear, or there was something mechanically wrong with it. It was revving, like I said, revving much higher than a typical car. It definitely grabbed your attention.
Okay. What happened next?
As I got closer, I could hear something which I didn't know if it was like the engine sputtering, or I didn't really know what it was. Again, kind of unusual. But then as it got closer,
He might.
you could see that it was, again, traveling at a high rate of speed. I was concerned at that point in time
I'm surprised with
that either
the
there's some sort of mechanical
detective
issue with the car, possibly, or
who
maybe some
testified
parade
last
participant
night,
was having a medical emergency.
who was
The
marching
vehicle
with
was
the
clearly
Catholic
not under
group.
control
He was in a
in
suit,
relation
not
to
a
everything else that was
uniform.
going on.
I'm surprised Brooks didn't
How
ask
close
him
did
why
the
he's
SUV
not
get
in a
to you?
uniform. Of course, he was
As it passed
number
me,
one,
it
not
came,
at the parade
more
as a
towards my side of the
detective.
street, so it would have been traveling
But he's also a
essentially
detective, so
um,
they usually
west on
don't
what would be the
wear
eastbound lanes normally.
their dress
So
blues.
when it passed by me, it
Detectives
was
wear
very
suits
close,
or even
probably maybe
polo
10 feet away
shirts.
at most.
Were there parking spaces in front of you where you were standing?
I believe there were, yes.
Do you recall if the vehicle passed through the parking spaces in front of you at all?
Objection, relevance.
Where you drove is highly
Could you
relevant.
describe the lighting conditions at that time? What were the sunlight, street lights, things like that?
It was, if I remember correctly, it was getting to be towards dusk. I don't believe the street lights were on at that point in time, but it was getting darker, but it was still, like I said, I would describe it as maybe dusk, slightly before that.
How good of a look did you get at the driver?
A very good look.
Oh,
Can you describe?
so they didn't
can you give us
switch
a physical
drivers
description
from
of
when
what
he
you
was
remember?
identified at the beginning
I
of the
remember the
parade
driver being
to the end of the
a
parade.
light-skinned male black, approximately mid 30s, mid to late 30s. Had very facial hair and what I would describe as like dreadlocks.
That's a good
Longer hair,
description.
longer hair.
That's
What
a
was the
good
driver
description.
doing as he passed you?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
Clearly, he didn't read what
As he
hearsay
was
is
driving by,
last night.
The window was open. He stuck his head and actually like the upper portion of his body out the driver's window and looked back behind him.
Oh, so he
Window you're
looked
talking
back
about,
at
which window is that?
the
would be the
dancing
driver's
grannies
window.
he had just mowed
And he actually
down.
stuck his head out the window.
Objection, leave the witness.
Overruled. He may answer.
Correct, to the point where it crossed my mind he actually may fall out. That's how far out I perceived him to be.
Wow.
What direction was the driver looking when he stuck his head out the window?
He was looking behind him.
From the direction that he had come from?
Correct.
What happened next?
Good morning,
At
Teresa.
that point, when he looked back and then he kind of
He already started with fireworks.
based on his body language, my heart kind of sank because I felt like what I thought could be maybe a medical emergency or something like that. To me, clearly, I felt like it was an intentional act.
Oh,
That's upset me a little bit. And
that's good.
Then
That's good
the driver,
testimony
after
for
he
the
had leaned back,
prosecution.
he turned forward, he grabbed the steering wheel, he pulled himself up off the seat and cranked the steering wheel to the right.
And kept
So
going
let
through the
record
Catholic
reflect
group.
that the witness used both hands at the 10 and 2 position to simulate the driver's hands on the steering wheel.
Objection to that.
Overruled. The record will reflect.
What happened as the driver cranked the steering wheel to the right?
The car turned to the right.
Unfortunately, when he did that, he essentially steered the vehicle across the parade route at a diagonal angle directly through a group of people that were walking with the Catholic community of Waukesha.
Based on your memory of where those people were in the road and the SUV's path of travel. What would have happened if the SUV had simply maintained a straight path instead of veering to the right?
Objection, speculative.
Overruled.
It's
He didn't
not
answer.
speculative. He can
I
describe
believe that
what
there was
what was
a
in
gap
the path
between
if
where
he hadn't
the
turned.
Catholic community from Waukesha were standing and the parade spectators. So there should have been an open alleyway.
So he could have
he would have
avoided
went
hitting
straight.
more people. Instead, he turned and hit 19 people
What happened
with
next?
the Catholic community of Waukesha.
Unfortunately, when he drove through that group, he struck many of them. A lot of them kind of
So
bouncing
from
off the
this
hood and,
testimony, it's not just
some
he
of
was
them,
trying to
unfortunately,
get
actually
down
ran
the street.
over. You
He
could see 'em kind of-
intentionally
people come out
drove
from underneath the
into
vehicle.
this group.
Did you see the vehicle at any point
There was
attempt
space
to
to avoid them.
strike
he
the word
didn't.
attempt? Did you at any point see the vehicle slow down?
Objection, speculative.
Overruled.
No, not at all.
How is it
Did you see
speculative?
Brake lights?
Nope, none.
Did you hear a horn honking?
Nope, not at all.
I'd like to put up for the witness only, please. Exhibit
been a
number
great
133.
Go ahead.
This is a 5-second clip. It's cleared now. We're going to just play it for you once. Let me know if you recognize what you're looking at after you watch it, okay?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
It's not hearsay yet. That he hasn't even asked him a question. He's just showing the officer the
recognize that
clip in
Yes.
order to
What does it depict?
ask
That
questions
depicts
to
the red
identify the video.
Ford Escape traveling through the closed parade route from the east of Maple through that
I
intersection.
mean, they're
with
not
Maple
even
on
showing
Main
it to
Street
the
the
jury
west.
yet.
Very close to where I was standing.
Does that video accurately depict the events as you saw them unfold that day?
Yes, it does.
Move exhibit 133 into evidence and ask to
Object.
publish.
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled. Exhibit 133 is received. Permission to publish is granted.
We can just wait for the bailiff to give me a signal.
There's a delay to the monitors in the jury box.
They haven't fixed the delay overnight. Come on. Is this amateur hour like me?
Could you just tell us which part of the screen does the SUV enter?
Objection, leave the witness.
Overruled.
It enters from the right side of the screen and progresses across to the essentially kind of the left side of the screen.
Okay, let's play this once then.
Why was he playing so fast?
It definitely helps.
Is that normal speed?
It definitely helps to show that
Mr. Brooks, it's
He
not your time to
intended
ask
to hit
questions. You'll have an
people.
opportunity to ask those previously, or when,
or at least had a disregard to the danger of hitting people.
Could we put up for the witness only, please, exhibit number 132? So same concept here. I'm just going to play a few seconds for you. You let me know if you recognize the area depicted in the video and what happens as it plays. Let's keep going. Okay. Do you recognize that video?
Yes.
What does it show?
It shows the same red Ford Escape SUV that I've been talking about come in from the right-hand side of the screen across to the left-hand side of the screen, striking at least one person there.
And do you
Was
see
that
the
a
vehicle
dancing granny or a
changing
Catholic
position in the road towards
community
the end of that
member?
video?
Objection, leave the witness.
overruled.
Can I see it again?
Sure.
For the record, how long is this clip?
It is 11 seconds.
Thank you.
objection? I only have a 7-second attention span.
From my perspective, the vehicle travels straight through the video from right to left.
Is this an accurate representation of what you saw that day?
Yes.
Move exhibit 132 into evidence and request permission to publish.
Exhibit 132 is received, permission to publish is granted.
Wow, I didn't hear an objection from him.
We'll wait for the bailiff. Okay, we can play.
No sound, so I wonder if it is at full speed because they've been muting.
I'd like
if
to go
they
back to the 6
play
second
it at
mark.
half speed.
Set it to 40%, please. And play from there.
Go ahead.
Can we go back to the 6 second mark?
Objection.
Grounds.
Keep going back.
I presume you have a question for the witness?
I do, yep.
All right, overruled.
Can you, using a little X again, can you draw on the screen the approximate area where you would have been standing at this time?
Sure. It would have been somewhere down in that area.
Okay, so
So the sidewalk.
they're showing
running
this still
kinda
on
up
the
middle
screen.
of the screen here, that'll run into Maple,
Yes.
and then you would be on the other side of Maple.
Yeah.
Overruled. His answer may stand. Just caution the state about leading questions. Thank you.
Do you know what side of the street this camera is on?
I think
north or
they
south?
still have a DNA expert, don't they, Darlene?
Overruled, he asked if he knew.
This camera would be on the south side of Main Street.
And what direction is the camera facing?
This camera will be facing to the west.
So down the parade
Can
route
we back up a little bit.
in
maybe
the
to 3
direction
second
he
mark?
drove.
Yes.
Okay, we're at the 3 second mark. Do you see the SUV that you've been talking about in the video right now?
Objection, lead the witness.
No, it's not.
Yes.
Can you please circle it for us? Thank you. We can clear that. Now paying attention to the tail lights,
Apparently, any
Let's
question
play again at
is
40% from
leading,
that spot, 3 seconds.
no matter what.
What did you see the taillights of the SUV doing in the last few seconds of that video?
Objection, what's the relevancy?
Overruled, he may answer.
I didn't see the taillights.
How would that
far as,
be
like, brake
irrelevant?
lights,
What
I
he
didn't see any brake
sees the SUV doing, whether he
the,
sees brake lights. How
The rear
would
facing
that
lights
be
were
irrelevant?
illuminated in some way, correct?
Objection, lead the witness.
Sustained.
Asked about
Please.
tail lights, not brake lights.
Please rephrase.
Sure. Did you see any lights on the back of the vehicle?
Yes.
Which ones?
Taillights.
And what did you see the taillights doing in that portion of the video?
Objection, lead the witness.
No, it's not.
Overruled.
The taillights were on.
But the position of the vehicle, did you see that change?
Objection, lead the witness.
Overruled.
I did not.
I guess
You
leading is
testified
the
earlier
word
that
of
you
the day
thought there might be
today.
some type of mechanical issue. Did you maintain that opinion?
No.
Why not?
Objection, Speculative.
Overruled.
Based on the body language that the driver had exhibited as he passed me, there was no panic. There was no distress, like he was trying to stop the vehicle. In fact, he seemed to me like he was excited about what he was doing.
Would please put up for the witness exhibit number 34.
Morning,
again,
Singapore
for the witness
Sling.
only.
Go ahead.
134, excuse me.
Darrell Brooks
Yep.
is on one this morning.
34.
We're going to play.
In case you missed the
16-second clip.
beginning.
We're just going to play the first 7 or 8 seconds for you. That's good. We played 6 seconds. Do you recognize that video?
Do I recognize the vehicle in the video?
Yes.
Yes.
Objection, that wasn't the question, Your Honor.
Overruled. He may answer.
The answer was yes.
Yes.
This is based on your recollection of
Yesterday, they said they
Seeing
had
that
two
day,
more
this would be where in
witnesses
relation to where you were standing?
present yesterday.
That would be
Was
west
my
of
understanding.
what happens to Main Street as you go west of where you were standing.
Objection, being the witness.
Overruled.
Approximately a block to the west, the road takes a sharp turn to the left or south.
I do think,
You
though, that
testified
they're
earlier
getting
that
close.
the driver's window was down when it passed you. Is that correct?
Yes.
And
Does
if
this
they
video
do
accurately depict
run out of
how the
witnesses
SUV
today
looked, including
with
that
the need
window
for their
at
field
the time you
trip,
saw it?
Objection, speculative.
it might be a short stay.
Overruled. He may answer. He's testifying about what he recalled, not what someone else thought. Go ahead.
Yes.
I move Exhibit 134 into evidence and request permission to publish.
Objection. Hearsay.
No.
The objection's
Stop.
overruled. Exhibit 134 is received. Permission to publish is granted.
Okay, we'll play this once at full speed.
Give the jury the full effect, then slow it down to identify things. And the thing is, so many witnesses, they've asked, what's your
The
estimate
video
of the
that we just played,
speed?
Exhibit 134.
And we've heard estimates
how you
between,
recall
I
seeing
think,
the video that
25
day,
and
the
50
vehicle that day?
or 55.
Yes.
But the
Now,
jury
if we could
sees
put
the
up for
video.
witness only, Exhibit number 9, please.
They can use their own perception of
You
how
recognize this
fast.
exhibit?
Yes.
What is it?
That's the red SUV that I saw on the parade that day. Damage it depicts in the front of the vehicle.
I'm planning to use the buffer and catch up during the break.
Is open, like I saw, and that's the driver that I saw driving the vehicle that day.
Does Exhibit 9 appear to be a screenshot from the video that we just saw, Exhibit 134?
Yes.
I'd move Exhibit 9 into evidence and request permission to publish.
Objection, speculative.
Exhibit 9 is received. Permission to publish is granted.
Speculative, publishing the video? Seriously? Well, there's a red Ford Escape in the still of the video. Oh, the hood is crumpled. Look at that hood. Bonnet for you, Darlene.
Does that come up?
But that's just it's like it's at a right angle, and the driver's side front fender is also damaged. What are you shaking your head at?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we can take that down. Thank you.
Exactly, Static. He learns his word of the day, and then that's it.
What did you do after the SUV drove out of your field of view?
Checked
I
on my
wasn't even
family.
looking
They're
at him in
physically
the
unharmed.
photo.
So
I
then
was
went into the
looking
road
at
to
the
see how to
damage
help
to the
people.
car.
Did
I
you?
mean SUV.
Yes.
Who?
Stepped out into the road. I looked to my left, to my right, in each direction. I would estimate probably 12 to 15 people in each direction that were lying in the road in various positions. I just walked up to the first people that I saw to my west, which would have been people that were with the Catholic.
You know how
community of
sovereign
Waukesha.
citizens and
Did you,
First
attempt
Amendment
to render any
auditors like
medical
to
aid to
trot
anybody in that
out
group?
a misreading of the
Yes.
Supreme Court
Can you
case and
describe
say
that?
police have no duty to
So
help
I happened
people.
upon two people. One was an
Police
adult
have no
male,
duty to me.
and then one was a small child.
Therefore,
probably
they're
8 to
scum,
11.
and I don't have to listen to them.
The adult male
Notice,
was conscious.
he's a police officer
lying on his
off
side.
duty with his family.
I believe it was
and
the
he
right
goes
side
and
of his
renders
head
aid.
on the ground. He complained that he couldn't move his legs. And then the young girl was unconscious. She was laying on her stomach, face down, with her head tucked essentially down underneath her.
And Grip,
like, onto her chest, essentially.
this shows how
The adult male that you described, did he provide you with a
a
first name?
witness can
Yes, he
notice
did.
one thing and
Who's
not
that?
the other.
Jason.
Because
The
remember
girl
how
that you
many witnesses
mentioned,
were just
did you ever learn her
hyper-focused, red SUV, didn't
I
see
have
the
an idea who
driver
it
at
is now. I
all.
did not
They saw
learn
the
it
red
that day,
SUV and then the injured.
What happened as you
I
came
was
upon that girl with
hyper-focused
her
on the
head tucked down
damage,
into her
didn't
chest?
even see that Brooks was
Um,
visible in the
I
photo.
believe there was at least one other Good Samaritan that had come down to assist her. She was not, like I said, she was not
Which
conscious.
is why they say eyewitness
she was
testimony isn't always the
breathing,
best.
The breaths were more like
legal
snoring.
TV
I
shows
recognize that she was not
would
getting
have
good
you believe
quality
that
breaths.
circumstantial evidence is
Could be
somehow
characterized as
lesser
anal breathing,
evidence.
possibly.
It's
but she was not
frequently the
breathing
best
normally.
evidence because
What did you do?
it's just there. It's not
I told the other Good Samaritan that we needed to
dependent
get her in a better
on
position,
a witness's
so she
memory
could get adequate breaths, because
or
where she was,
perception
she was
of
not.
events.
At first, the person was a little reluctant because they didn't want to hurt her more by moving her. But I convinced them that she's not breathing appropriately right now. We have to move her carefully so that she can have an opportunity to breathe.
So did you?
Yes.
Did you help anybody else?
Breathing is
the
definitely
group that you've
of
identified as the
paramount
Catholic communities?
importance, even over other injuries.
Overruled.
Eventually, there was several people that came and helped the young girl with various levels of medical training. I think one was like a retired military medic, and there was at least one nurse. So they were helping her.
So
to
a
the point where I
combat
really could
medic
not
is
provide any
the
additional aid.
perfect person to
So
have
I
on
kinda
scene.
walked around to see if there's
Because
anybody else I
frankly,
could
they're the
help.
only
Was
ones
there?
experienced
Yes, there was many
in
people at
treating
that
this
point.
level of
Did you help anybody else?
carnage.
Yes.
Who?
I actually ran into an officer who was also off duty from Franklin that I recognized. I didn't attend the event with him, but I ran into him. We worked together then to help at least one other person into the back of
I wonder if grounds
Sheriff's
will catch
squad
up with
that had
objections.
come onto the parade route to try to help get people to the area.
Because, I mean, he
hospitals.
does
What type
object
of vehicle was
to
that?
It was a
prosecutors'
There's an objection.
objections
It's not
being
speculative.
overheld.
The witness may answer. Go ahead.
it was a marked Waukesha County Sheriff's SUV.
What happened next?
By that time, there was a lot of medical equipment that was arriving on scene. I know there was a longboard that we tried putting some of the victims on.
A longboard as in a
wouldn't fit in the back
skateboard,
of
or a
the,
longboard as in a backboard?
because it's a hard seat, and it just wouldn't fit in there. So we ended up
Exactly,
using like a
Darlene.
makeshift stretcher out of a
It's-
blanket, and then we carried
There's
one of
the
victims into
famous
back of the,
video.
sheriff
You
SUV.
can look it up on
And then,
YouTube, where there's
the officer
a
that
group
was
of
with me from
people
Franklin, he actually
passing a
rode
basketball,
with her in the
around,
back, or the
and
female victim,
someone in a gorilla suit
and
walks
went to
through.
area hospital.
But at the beginning of the
Do you
video,
recall
they
the
say,
first name of
count
that
how
female
many
victim?
times
I
the
believe it was
basketball is
Marcel.
passed.
MARISO.
And then after they ask, did you see the gorilla? And most people didn't
Oh,
because they're focused on the basketball.
Yes.
The gorilla's a complete surprise.
Did you eventually leave the downtown
In,
Waukesha
in
area?
fact, my evidence
Yeah.
professor in
approximately
law school
5:30
did
after
something
all
similar.
The victims that had lying in the road were
First
taken
day
care
of
There was
class,
nothing
she
left for
had
me to
one
do
of
at
the
that
law
point.
librarians who was brand new
Thank you. I have no further
walk
questions.
walk in one door of the class carrying
Any
a
questions
box
for this
and
witness,
with like a
sir?
squirt gun on top or something, set something down
That's a
on the
yes?
table and
Yes.
walk out the other
All right,
room.
go ahead.
Half an hour later, the professor asked, "Who did someone walk into the
Would you
room?
happen to
What
be on
did that
duty
person
today,
do?
right now, if
What
you
were they
testifying?
wearing?" And most of us
Yes.
didn't see anything.
And so right now, would it be fair to say that you are on the clock?
Yes.
So on the clock, would
I mean,
it be fair
and
to say that you're
the
getting
first
paid
time
right now?
I watched that video, I didn't see the gorilla
Yes.
Would
suit.
that be for your testimony or just because you would be on the clock otherwise?
These would be my normal work hours right now.
So you're being paid to testify right now as we speak.
No,
Objection.
he's
Grounds.
not being paid
That's
for his
fine.
testimony.
He may answer.
Yes.
Any idea why you
He's not being
to
paid by the Waukesha Police Department or the Waukesha
Because these are my normal work
prosecutors.
hours. This
He's
is
being
when I'm
paid
working
by
and
the Franklin
been
Police
subpoenaed by the state
Department
to be here.
because he's on duty right now.
So the state's paying you to testify?
No, the city of Franklin.
The city of Franklin is paying me.
To testify.
These
To-
are my normal work hours.
To work.
So testifying in open court is part of your duties as an officer?
Yes.
So you've done this more than just this time, then would that be fair to say?
Yes.
And each time you were paid to do so?
Yes.
This doesn't impact his credibility. He's a
You
police
made it into
officer.
the state
He's
of
paid to
Wisconsin.
be a police officer.
Is that who you were subpoenaed by?
Yes.
Do you recall by whom?
No.
You were in fact subpoenaed though, would that be fair to say?
He's there.
Yes.
And you don't recall by whom the subpoena was
He said.
delivered to you?
He said.
The name on the subpoena?
No.
So would it be fair to say that upon being subpoenaed, you were in touch with the state of Wisconsin?
Specifically, Waukesha County DA's office.
Do you recall who those interactions were with?
The
Not
prosecutors.
specifically.
So it'd be fair to say you had an interaction with the Waukesha County District's Attorney's Office,
Exactly.
but don't recall who you spoke with.
How dare
I
he
spoke with a group
get
of people
paid
from
for
the
doing
DA's
his
office.
job?
Do you remember anyone by name?
One of the people was the gentleman, the DA at the table.
That the record reflect that the witness made a hand gesture towards the prosecution table and identified Attorney Witchow?
Objection.
The record will so reflect.
So you knew that it was a strong possibility that you would be called to testify.
When he was
in,
subpoenaed, yeah.
That'd be fair to say.
Yes.
Did you seek to testify in any way?
I don't understand the question.
Were you actively seeking to testify? Like, did you, on your end, did you reach out
Because
and
somehow
volunteer?
he's less
testimony?
credible if he wanted to
After the
tell
incident, I
the
did complete
story.
a report of what I saw that day and gave it to the Waukesha Police Department.
So after that report that you submitted, you didn't follow up on
Why would he?
what was happening in
Why would he? He's
the
not
matter at that
investigating
point?
it.
No.
It's not his job to follow up.
So it'd be fair to say, after you gave the report on the incident, you just went back to work and continued your normal duties.
These
Would that be
closed
fair to say?
captioning
Yes.
Did you follow
On-
much
on the
in the
feed is
aftermath
just
of the matter at that point
laughable.
after you submitted your report?
Not really.
He didn't submit a report. He gave a statement.
Don't recall seeing any news reports related to the incident?
I may have saw some.
But he didn't testify about what he saw on the news.
You made
He
reference
testified
at
about
one
what
point
he
to,
saw.
well, let me back up. Was today the first time you ever saw those exhibits, the videos and still frame photo?
No.
So you've seen that before today?
That's what he
Yes.
just said.
You recall how many times?
I believe probably once a piece.
Do you recall who you were shown them by?
The
Same.
table. Yep.
Same attorney?
Yes.
Let the record also reflect that, again, he's made a right hand gesture to the
Oh, a
prosecutor
right
stating
hand
identify
gesture.
Attorney Whitchild. Again,
No objection.
Record will so reflect.
and do you recall
Because we all know right hand gestures are
around
somehow
what
associated with Freemasons, which makes it
what date that
illegitimate.
was? Was it recently? Was it some time ago?
It was recently.
And what would you define as recently? A few weeks, a few days, a month?
A few weeks.
And exhibit, I want to say it was 133. Or maybe
Grounds is
132.
slowly catching up.
You recall seeing the vehicle that you saw that day going through the parade route. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
Could I see the exhibit? I'm not sure which one specifically you're referring to.
Let's try exhibit 132. Then maybe.
The state, put that up, please.
Yep.
For the witness only or for everyone?
For everyone.
All right, go ahead.
I don't have it on my screen.
Did you unplug your screen
You have it
again?
now. Jurors,
Yes.
let me know when you have it in the jury box.
I have it. I have it now.
No, I need the jurors to let me know when they get it, since there's a more of a delay to the jury box and those monitors. Thank you. It's on in the jury box. Go ahead.
You made reference when shown this exhibit. You made reference to be in position around like right in that area. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
If you could play the video from, I don't know, maybe starting at around 5 seconds.
Give me a second. I need to clear the invitation. You don't want to capture them anyway, do you?
It's
Oh, no.
already been captured, wasn't it?
Can you play it?
Not that it's important. It's the video they want in evidence.
Did you
They
see the
just
vehicle pass
They
position where
showed
you
where
were
the
standing
officer was
in that
to show
exhibit?
Yes.
he had firsthand knowledge
You made
of
reference
what was in
to
the video.
the driver of the vehicle hanging out of the driver's side window, and
I don't
I
know
think
if
your
he
words were,
realizes it. I mean,
you were concerned that the driver may fall out of the
I
vehicle.
think
Did
he's
you recall
trying to
saying that?
insinuate that
Yes.
it
Is
somehow
it fair to say
impacts their
from that
credibility.
exhibit
But
video
they
that
have to know what they're going to
the
testify
driver of
about.
that vehicle is not hanging out of the window?
In that portion of the video, he is not hanging out the window.
So what portion? Let me back up. In any of the exhibits that you were shown, does any of them depict the driver hanging out of the window on the verge of falling out?
No.
The videos aren't from his eyes. They're near where he was.
So
But I mean, from the still,
What position were you in when you
that was
observed what you
taken
said as the driver
before
hanging out of the window
this
and
witness,
you being concerned that possibly they would
as
fall out?
Brooks is approaching
Where were
him,
you positioned at that
he
time?
hung out after.
I would have been standing on the south side of Main Street, just west of Maple, by a few feet.
Do you know of any reason why the exhibits are not depicting what you say you saw?
Because they're not complete. That's 11 seconds.
That portion of the video only covers from a distance where I was. It would have been the very tail end of it. When it's going to the west, that video is probably from several hundred feet to the east of where I am. So
Several hundred feet? How would you estimate that distance?
Because he knows
just
distances.
I know where that video is taken from and where I was standing. That's an estimate of about how far.
And you know that for sure?
It's an estimate.
So it would be fair to say you don't know for sure.
He said it's an estimate.
Grounds
Sustain.
for sustain, Your Honor.
Argument.
That's 2 grounds and 1 objection.
Question, please rephrase.
Would it be fair to say that
And he still hasn't learned
In the
there's no
exhibit that was
B in
just shown.
sustain.
that from the position that you said that you would have been positioned at, would it be fair to say that the vehicle passed that position pretty quickly?
He
Yes.
hasn't estimated
So
speed
how
yet,
are
I
you
don't
able
think.
to get a look at the driver if it passed your position quickly and we can see lots of
Because
people
he
standing
has
in that position?
eyes.
When the vehicle passed by me, it was
You weren't
the
driving
vehicle at that point in
130
time
miles
was a
an
threat
hour.
to me and
You
my
were driving
family.
30.
So I was very focused on what was going on. Very focused.
He's a police
passed
officer,
directly in
so
front of
he
me.
made
About 10 feet
a
away.
conscious
So
decision to
all
look
my
at
attention
you.
was directly on that vehicle. That's how I noticed that.
And he
you
gave a
saying
great
it passed
description
10
of you.
10 feet in front of you.
That's not
Approximately,
very
yes.
far.
Does this exhibit that was just shown depict what you are saying now, that it passed 10 feet in front of you?
Yes.
So can we pull that back up?
Sure. It'll be shown to everyone.
Yes.
And if the jurors would let me know when it's on the screens in the jury box, please.
Go ahead.
The
You
jury
want
got
it
it?
played? They have it, yes, they confirmed. Do you
Okay.
want it played from a certain
Well,
spot?
I'll get to that.
Oh, you'll get
Just so
to
we're
it.
clear for the record and for the jury, your position would be somewhere
For the
in here
record
as you
and for the
testified.
jury.
Would that be fair to say?
Correct. But
Can we pull that X down?
Hold on, let him finish. You interrupted
Okay,
him.
okay.
given the angle of this, it's very hard for me to show precisely where I am. It's a little, it's, if I can draw an X, I'm trying to draw it as
You're
far,
allowed to use your finger.
I'm sorry,
That's okay.
like as far down here as possible. It's not right. It's not like any of these people here. It's actually, because this is still, all this video here is still on the east side of Maple. I am on the west side of Maple. So when I put an X here, I am essentially, I'm going to call it way down there, several hundred feet. I'm not any of these people pictured. Does that make sense?
No, it actually doesn't, but
But that's
I was
because
referring,
you
so
are
I probably
stupid.
had it a little coming this way. So by what you're saying, you would have been approximately in this area.
Whereas
That'd be fair
for
to say.
defense attorneys with the prosecution witnesses,
Twice now.
that they'll
where he
hit you
was,
with witness
and I think
tampering so
adequately explained
fast.
it.
Grounds.
I'm going to sustain the objection and direct Mr. Brooks to have the witness put where the area that he was in.
Okay.
We'll clear the annotation and go ahead. If you could do that, sir.
Because Mr. Brooks's annotation isn't evidence.
Now, did you mean to put that arrow?
I did not mean to put that arrow there.
Let's clear it again. We'll have you do it. I know it's a touchy screen, so do it again.
So you and your family were approximately in the area of where you drew the X. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Would it also be fair to say that there are quite a few people in that area?
Yes.
But still, looking down the street, he
Would it
would
be
have
fair to say
seen
that
this portion
you
of
can
the
see,
street
I guess
just
it would
from the
be
other direction?
some type of lights from the vehicle that passed? Would that be fair to say?
Not in this
Yes.
video right here, right now. Those look
And you estimate that
like lights in a
where you can see those
awning
lights
or
and
canopy
where you would have positioned that
hanging off
is
a
10
building.
feet.
Can you repeat the question?
Would you say that where you can see those lights at that you just said that
Which
you can
lights?
see, and the position that you drew yourself to be positioned in,
Which lights?
you would estimate that that's 10 feet?
Yes.
I'll object and move to strike. I think this is a misleading question. We're at the beginning of the video. Those taillights are not the vehicle in question.
Where did the taillights come from?
A different vehicle. You're not the only vehicle in the parade.
Oh.
So would it be fair to say that there's
Hold on,
different
there's been an
vehicles 10
object,
feet?
there's been an objection. I believe the question mischaracterized the evidence. So strike the question, strike his response. Please rephrase. If you want to watch the video again to establish what you're asking, that would be fine.
Before I play, do you recall there being any other vehicles positioned by where you were standing at with your family?
Hold on, are you talking about at the time that we're seeing this or?
At the time that we're looking at right now, do you recall any other vehicles being present, positioned where you were
Most
standing
of the
with your family?
groups had support vehicles of some
I believe
sort.
there was a vehicle to my left, which would have been immediate to my left was the group that was walking with the Catholic community of Waukesha, and just to the west of them was some sort of vehicle that was participating in the parade.
So it would have been a little bit further west.
Yes.
From your recollection, would you say that that was the vehicle that you said would have been positioned a little further west?
You can't
Vehicle
see
in the
it
photo.
there.
Yes, the vehicle
Thank you.
the vehicle in the exhibit. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just want to make sure we all understand.
Okay,
It's possible that's the vehicle.
but you don't know for sure.
It's hard to see in this video, in this
No.
frame right here.
Can you play a little bit of it? I'll tell you when to pause. Can we bring the X off?
We can. And we will. Go ahead and play.
Pause.
What's the timestamp?
Would it be fair to say that it looks like the vehicle that's traveling with direction, would that be west?
Which vehicle are you referring to?
The vehicle that just drove through the middle of the screen.
Yes.
I don't think.
For
Would
the
it be
record,
fair-
hold on. For the record, the video was paused at 4 seconds.
I doubt that Brooks understands like
Okay.
the 2-point perspective.
Does the vehicle appear to be in the middle of the street? Would that be fair to say?
Just perspective of distance
At
in
that point, yes.
photos, drawings, videos.
And would you estimate the middle of the street to be 10 feet from where you were positioned at the time?
He didn't say the middle of the street was 10
No, it'll
feet.
be a little further.
He
than
said
that.
you were 10 feet. He didn't say you drove down the middle of the street in front of him.
And with all the
And besides,
people
you
in
were
that general
right in front of him,
vicinity,
and then you veered to the right,
would that in
back
any way be
into
hard
the
for you to
middle.
focus on if you could actually see who was driving the vehicle?
No, when I gave the description, the vehicle was right in front of me and there was nobody in my way.
He said
you see
after
yourself?
you passed you,
Can you
after you
did
passed
your
him,
position?
you
Well, rather,
veered
did your
right
position move
into
closer
the middle
to
of
the
the
vehicle,
street.
as we can see that it's in the middle of the street, and you just testified to
He
that?
didn't. He did
Did
not
you move
testify
closer to
that
the
you were in
vehicle,
the
or
middle
did
of
you
the
move back from the
street.
vehicle? What did you do
This
at
is
that point when you noticed
mischaracterizing
that
his
the vehicle was
testimony.
approaching your position?
He did not say your vehicle was in
It
the middle
happened
of the
very
street.
quickly. I don't know that I moved in any direction when the vehicle came by.
So to your recollection, you pretty much stayed where you were at.
That's what he just
Yes,
said.
it happened very quickly.
So it'd be fair to say that it was, well, let me back up. What would you define as very quickly? Few seconds?
Yes.
And in a few seconds, you were able to see the driver of the vehicle hanging out of the window and almost falling
This isn't
and doing all that in just a
1850s
few seconds.
photography.
Yes.
He doesn't need you to sit still for 15
And
minutes.
you also made mention to the driver of the vehicle looking behind them. Do you recall saying that?
Yes.
So in your recollection, you witnessed the driver hanging out of the driver's side window,
That's what he just said.
being concerned that they would possibly fall out of the vehicle, and looking back and continuing to drive in a straight line, all in a few seconds.
Ugh. So they added a hearsay counter.
You were able
I
to
think
see,
that
because you
there's
testified
been more
that
hearsay than that already in where we are.
everything happening very quickly, and then you defined that as being a few seconds. Would that be fair to say that that's what you just
He's-
testified to?
Asked and answered.
So what I'm asking is, in those few seconds, you were able to see, from your recollection, you were able to see
He is
the driver of the
testifying
vehicle
from his
hanging out of the
recollection.
vehicle,
He just said yes.
you being concerned that the driver would possibly fall from the vehicle. Notice that the driver was looking back and continuing to drive
That's
in a
what he
straight line.
said.
You witnessed all this in a
Yes.
few seconds.
Yes, that's what he said.
I would not say continue to drive in a straight line. All the rest of that, yes.
You witnessed all that in a few seconds.
Yes.
Because he said if you had continued on that path, you could have missed the Catholic community of Waukesha, but instead you veered right toward the middle of the street and plowed through 19 more
The video.
people.
Oh yeah, we done the video. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
Just so we're clear for the record, the exhibit that we just watched, the driver of the said vehicle is not hanging out of the window. Would that be fair to say?
He just said
Correct.
you already asked about the video. The video isn't taken directly in front of him.
You made reference to the make and model of the vehicle. How were you able to determine that in just
Because
a few
he
seconds?
saw the vehicle.
Given my job, I know different makes and models of vehicles, so I'm positive on the make and model.
So would you know the make and model of pretty much any vehicle that would pass you on a street?
Most, yes.
Most, but not all.
Some of the newer vehicles look very similar. Some might be a little difficult, but I'm very confident in that vehicle description.
You were able to determine that in a few seconds?
Yes.
You made mention to some mechanical problems. You believe that there may have been some mechanical problems. How were you able to come to that determination?
That was my initial concern
He
because
didn't
of the
say he
noise that the engine
determined
was making.
there were mechanical
It wasn't
problems.
a normal engine noise. The RPMs were revving much higher than normal.
Can you explain to the jury what do you mean by that? The RPMs, how that has any bearing on the engine?
It's
Sounds
how
very,
how
very
much you were
high-pitched.
revving.
This is very different than a normal vehicle driving down the road. Very, very high pitched. Would get your attention.
And so upon hearing that,
It means your
your
foot was
recollection,
on the
you thought
accelerator
because
pedal.
of that sound that there had to be some mechanical
No,
problems
that's
going on
not
with
what
the
he
engine.
determined. That's
I thought that there could be.
mischaracterizing.
But it was your first initial thought, correct?
Correct.
And you were able to hear that sound and come to a conclusion that possibly there were mechanical issues all in a few seconds.
A lot runs through your mind at that point in time. Yes.
And would it be fair to say, because depicting from the exhibit, that there were quite a few people in that general area, you were able to,
But they weren't revving
hear
at
this
high
engine
RPMs.
over all the noise and chaos that was going on at that time?
Yes, absolutely.
And you can hear the engine clear over all those people.
You were 10
Yes.
feet from him.
Would it be fair to say that there were hundreds, even thousands of people present at the parade that day?
Hundreds for sure in my area. Sure.
In your general area, hundreds.
That's
Yes.
because the
Would it be
witness
fair to
is
say
still
that
there.
hundreds of people can get pretty loud?
We'll see what happens in
Yes.
between witnesses. And we'll see if he comes back from lunch in tears again.
You stated that,
Because it's
I can't remember what
so
what
difficult
side
for
of
him.
the road you said it would be, but you made reference to an open alleyway. Do you recall saying that?
No.
I don't. I mean, are you referring to the gap that he could have taken
Do you recall
between
if you
the
were
crowd
positioned
and the
by any cross
Catholic
streets?
community of Waukesha? He
Yes,
said
there was an
there was
intersection
space
just to my
between
right
them
with
that you
Maple
could
Avenue.
have driven and missed
Do you
the
recall if it was
Catholic community
barricaded
of
at the time?
Waukesha, but you veered into
I
them.
believe it was, but I couldn't say for sure.
Do you recall if any law enforcement was stationed at that barricade?
I don't recall.
But you didn't drive into the
So it'd be
parade
fair to
through
say you
that
don't
barricade.
recall if there could have been an exit out of the parade route at that time.
You could have stopped at any
I
time.
don't recall.
An exit is irrelevant. You could have stopped.
In any of the exhibits that you were shown, and not the still frames, but the videos, 132, 133,
Exactly.
and I think it
There's
was
so much
134.
information,
Did you see yourself in any of those videos?
and the brain
I did not.
can
Did you see your family members in any one of
process
those
a
videos?
lot. It
I
doesn't
did not.
necessarily process everything, but you can pick up so much.
To back up really quick to the mechanical issue again, you made mention to sounding like the engine was sputtering. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Can you define to the jury what you mean by sputtering?
I heard noises
It's
that
the
sounded like
police's fault for not
almost like a
stopping
popping,
him, or for
which at the
barricading
time I didn't know
him from
what it
exiting.
was. I thought it was
But
possibly
he's
mechanical
absolved
related.
because he honked his horn at the beginning.
In retrospect, it may have been impacts of the vehicle hitting things. I don't know. I don't know which it was.
It would be fair to say that, based on what you testified to earlier about the RPMs and you knowing that would have something to do with
My perception
the
would
engine
be
being
that you
louder,
were
high pitched, I think
accelerating.
was what you said. It would be fair. Do you think it would be fair to say that if that is pursuant to the actual engine, how could that have anything to do with something being struck if that's engine that's inside of it?
He didn't say it.
Can you repeat the question? I'm not sure what the specific question was.
He said the sounds
mechanical
he
issues that you are
heard
describing
could
was
have
pretty much
been
geared towards
you hitting
engine
people.
trouble. Would that be fair to say?
He
A
didn't
sputtering
say it was engine
engine,
trouble.
It
He
high
said
was-
that was his
It
initial
was very high
thought.
pitched, so it could be a mechanical thing, or it could be
He
the
said
engine
that was
or
his
the
initial
transmission
thought.
being like in the wrong gear, so that it's sounding much higher.
From your line of work, obviously you've been doing it for
This
a very
is
long
me
time.
being nice to Mr. Brooks.
Engine or transmission possibly the vehicle being in the wrong gear,
He
as you just said, could that at any time cause someone who's driving the vehicle to lose control of the vehicle?
I guess it could.
you didn't lose control though.
Do you know for sure, or is that just a guess?
That's just a guess.
So you don't know for sure if that would cause,
He just said it's a
if the driver may
he's
have
not an expert witness on
been
cars.
stuck in the wrong gear.
You still could have stopped. If it's stuck in the
You're
wrong
not
gear,
sure if
you can
that would have
still
caused
take
them
your
maybe
foot
to lose
off the
control of
accelerator and put
vehicle
it
at
on the
that point in
brake.
time?
You can turn the car off. You
It
can turn the
could. I
key.
don't know.
From the well, let me back up. From your recollection, do you recall there being any tints to the vehicle, like tinted windows or anything?
I don't recall.
He says your window was down. He saw you.
Can we pull up Exhibit 9?
Go ahead.
Can we? How do you show it to everybody? Do you say publish?
It's on
I'm sorry.
Published, yes. It is. Jury will let me know when it's in the jury box, please.
Would it be fair to say from this still shot depiction that there are in fact tinted windows of the vehicle that you identified?
It does appear that the windows in the
But
back
your
are tinted.
window is down.
So you don't see any tinted windows on the side too?
Yes. When I mean back, I mean driver's door back.
I apologize. I didn't know what you meant by that.
Okay.
Back driver's side window and the window, the immediate window after that as well. Would it be fair to say that there, from this picture, there are two tinted windows that you can visibly see? Would that be fair to say?
But your window is down.
You can take that down.
We can see you. Plus, it is hard to tell
And
if
that
the
Exhibit 9 steel frame.
rear seat
It would be
window is
also fair to say
tinted
that the driver is not hanging
because
out of the window at that
the
point.
interior of the vehicle
That is
is
fair to say, that
dark.
is correct.
It's dusk. So you're not going to see in through the window very well anyway.
To your recollection, do you know who may have took any of those videos, not the still frames, but
Exactly,
the videos that were
Darlene.
shown?
It's
No.
completely stupid of him because it just reinforces in their mind, yeah, this was you. Just like every time he brings up gunshots, it reinforces to the jury. He was such a danger that police felt the need
Were you
to
injured
fire
in any way
shots
during the incident?
in a crowd
Any of your
to try
family?
to stop
No.
him. But it's okay because he honked his horn at some point, maybe.
Do you know if anyone filed a claim in this incident?
How would he
I
know?
don't understand the question.
Filed a claim like
How would he know?
seeking to be an injured party?
Objection.
Grounds.
Sustained.
Just shut him down as soon as he gets onto the sovereign citizen nonsense.
Working in law enforcement, have you at any point seen the complaint in this matter?
Why would
Grounds.
he?
Relevance.
He's a witness.
Overruled, he may answer if he's able.
A complaint regarding this case?
Yes.
No.
Why would a witness
Do you know if there's a plaintiff in this
see-
case?
Objection.
Grounds.
Relevance.
Grounds.
Sustained.
And it's a legal conclusion. He doesn't determine if there's a plaintiff or who the
Same
plaintiff
objection.
is.
You don't have to answer.
Do you even know if there's a plaintiff in this matter?
Same objection.
Grounds.
Sustained.
Same objection. It's the same question.
being in law enforcement for as long as you have, are you aware that there has to be an injured party to bring a claim?
That's argumentative.
argumentative.
It misstates the
Sustained.
law,
Also misstates the law.
and it calls for a legal conclusion.
In any of your investigations during your career,
I mean, there
were
are
you ever
bad
made
police
aware at any
shootings.
time that
This was not one
the
of them.
state of Wisconsin can be a plaintiff in a matter?
Objection,
Grounds.
relevance.
Sustained.
Relevance misstates the law, calls for a legal conclusion. Just shut him down, Judge.
And from your recollection, do you recall seeing any of the occupants in the vehicle at the time?
I don't remember seeing anyone in the vehicle other than the driver.
Were you able to get a look inside of the vehicle?
I could only see the driver. I couldn't tell you whether there was anyone else in the vehicle or not.
So it would be fair to
That's
say that
bad,
you're not sure.
D-pad.
That would be fair.
No further questions.
See,
Thank you. Any redirect?
we
Yes,
see
please.
we
Thank
see
you, Your Honor.
objections climb with the prosecution
We
on
could bring
direct,
132
and then
back
grounds
up to
catch
the
up
jury while
slightly.
we're waiting for their screens
on
to come up.
cross.
I do have some separate questions.
Go ahead.
You testified that you're getting paid today as you sit there, correct?
That is correct.
By the city of Franklin?
Yes.
Okay. State of Wisconsin's not cutting that check.
The objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
Objection, speculative.
It's not speculative. He knows who
overruled.
pays him.
You may answer.
Correct. It's just the city of Franklin's paying no one else.
Do you get paid more money if there's a guilty verdict?
Objection, hearsay.
It's not
Overruled.
hearsay.
It's not hearsay.
He
You may
can.
answer.
No.
He has direct knowledge about.
Direct your
His
attention
pay
to exhibit
structure.
132 on the screen. If we could jump ahead to maybe 3
And it's
seconds
relevant because it shows his credibility. He has no incentive
and
to
slow it
lie.
down to about 40%. One last time, I'd like you to draw an X to depict where you and your family were standing approximately.
Objection, answered numerous times already at this point.
I'd like to preserve this as an exhibit.
Go
since
ahead.
He's done it so many times. Can we save that as exhibit 132A and I'd move that into evidence?
Objection, relevancy.
How is it irrelevant? You asked him to mark it
Exhibit
like
132
4
is
times.
received.
132A. I believe.
Sorry, 132A.
Thank you.
Objection.
Overruled.
We can see the red SUV in the roadway on Main Street in this portion of the video. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. At this point in the video, can you see the driver leaning his head or body out of the driver's window?
No.
Let's go frame by frame, please.
Ooh, frame by frame. That's a loud keyboard.
And pause there. We've paused it at about 4 seconds. This is the approximate location on cross-examination where you were asked about your position.
I guess, though,
and whether or not you
a
were
Ford
10 feet from the
Escape
vehicle.
was
Remember that line of questioning?
the appropriate
Yes.
vehicle.
When the vehicle was 10
since
feet
he
away
was
from you,
fleeing
is
his
this where it
assault on
was?
his
on Main Street?
ex-girlfriend.
Objection,
Overruled. You may answer.
speculative. It's clearly not 10 feet.
It would.
He can estimate. That's not
Disregard the comment made
speculation.
by Mr. Brooks.
And you're not testifying, Brooks.
It's not testimony. The witness may answer.
I don't consent to being called that name. Objection to that, for the record.
Could you repeat the question? one more time,
cares?
please?
When the vehicle was 10 feet away from you, is this, as it's depicted right now in the video, is this where the vehicle was at that time?
Objection, hearsay.
It's
Overruled.
Grounds for the overrule, Your Honor.
He may answer.
because
The
it's
vehicle
not
at this point would
hearsay.
still be east of my location.
Okay. So it hasn't At this point in the video, it hasn't reached you and your family yet.
That is correct.
It was
Let's go frame by
damaged,
frame. a
so
few
it
more
was
times,
only a
please.
partial escape.
And we'll pause there.
We're
For the
behind.
record, it
We'll
was not paused when you asked it to.
hopefully
so go
catch up
ahead
during
and
lunch.
Get back to the spot.
Okay, we're gonna zoom it.
It should be at 4.
So looks like the video is at 4 seconds.
Yep, we'll play from there.
And if you could just indicate, hold on, oh, what speed you're at.
We're going frame by frame at this point.
Thank you.
Okay, we've paused at 5 seconds. Is the vehicle now closer to the approximate location where it was near you and your family?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
At this point, I don't think
Yes.
they need to. They're
You described this video camera as being several
think
hundred feet away from your location. Is that right?
deliberations will
Approximately.
take a
In
little
your
while,
opinion,
but it's because they're going to
if
have
the
to go through
driver's
about
body were
60
hanging out the
pages
window at this point in
and
the video, could we
mark
see it on the
each
video?
element of each count, yes
In my
or
opinion,
no.
no.
Okay.
And it's just going to take
There
time
was a
going
question
through
on
paperwork.
cross-examination about your use of the phrase "open alleyway." So just to clarify, what, if anything, was between the group of
That's one of the reasons I
the Catholic
started a
group
little bit
and
late,
the
in
south
addition to my
curve of
snooze
Main
button.
Street as the SUV drove through that area?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
I would believe that there was nothing in that space. It would be an open space.
And you testified that you saw the SUV veer from left to right. Is that correct?
Objection. Speculative.
Overruled.
It's not
You may answer.
speculative
That is correct.
I want
testifying
to make sure
about
that we're at
what
about
he
40%
saw.
speed here. This is still Exhibit 132. We're going to play from where we
I mean,
stopped, which is 5
speculative would be,
seconds.
why do you think Brooks turned right? Testifying, I saw him turn right, is not speculative. We saw
In
the
that last
crowd
portion of the
scattering
video,
in
did you
that
see the vehicle
video.
veer from left to right?
Yes.
In your description of a mechanical problem, you talked about the engine revving in what sounded like a high gear. Is that right?
Well, it
Yes.
would be a too
And
low a gear.
Almost as though it were stuck in the wrong gear.
Yes.
You're not a mechanic, are you?
No.
You testified that you thought it might be possible if a vehicle was stuck in the wrong gear that the driver could lose control. You remember saying that on cross-examination?
Yes.
Based on your limited knowledge of how vehicles work, if a vehicle is stuck in the wrong gear, do you know if the brakes still work?
Based on my knowledge, I would say yes. They should still work.
Exactly.
Your initial opinion that there may have been a mechanical problem, that changed at some point, didn't it?
Objection. Speculative.
It's not speculative
Overruled.
what he was thinking.
Yes.
Why did that opinion change?
Objection, leading.
Overruled. He may answer.
It changed when I saw the driver and his body language.
What was that body language? What did you see?
Objection, leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
I would describe him as being in an excited state.
Apparently,
not in a
every
state of
single
panic,
question is
more
leading.
Again, excited or almost happy about what was going on, not panic.
What
or
did you
scared.
see? What did it look like? Those are so far from
thank you,
leading
Your Honor.
questions.
All right. Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Oh. And I really hope the jury's looking at Brooks's facial expressions, his upper facial expressions. That was a big eye roll.
Statement called. Next witness.
I
It's
really
called
think
Ralph
there's a
Selliers.
jailhouse lawyer in
All
there.
right, sir, if you would please make your way to the witness stand. When you get there, please remain standing, raise your right hand, and my clerk, Teresa, who's on my left, will swear you in.
And I don't know if I'm sure there's a jailhouse lawyer in there right now, but I'm sure he found out about this at some point during his
Thank you, sir.
lengthy
Please have a
criminal
seat.
history.
The first thing I will ask you to do is to state your first and last names for the
He did.
record and spell each.
He did on
Ralph
the
Salyers
cross.
III, RALPH.
It wasn't on
Last
the
is SALYERS.
redirect because it's irrelevant. The state
Thank
didn't
you.
have
Go
to
ahead.
rehabilitate him on that.
Sir, how are you employed?
City of Wauwatosa Police Department.
What county is
Wauwatosa,
that in?
It's in Milwaukee.
Not Waukesha.
Correct.
but it's the
Do
next
you recall where
county
you were on
over.
the afternoon of November 21st, 2021
Yes, I was at the Waukesha Christmas Parade.
in downtown Waukesha?
Yes.
What were you doing there?
I was attending the parade with my family. My daughters were walking in the parade with their dance team.
Were you on duty?
Were they the
No.
extreme dance
That was
group?
not the extreme dance team, was it?
No, it was Liberty Dance.
Ah,
Did you watch them go down the parade route and perform?
Yes.
Do you remember where you were standing when that happened?
Yes, I was standing on the southeast corner of Maple and Maine.
so that was
Do you know-
right
are you
next,
familiar with
right
the Curry
by
Insurance Building?
the other.
No.
Okay. Do you remember any other businesses or landmarks in that area?
He
The
was
corner where we were standing, there's a
southeast
parking lot
corner,
right
so
there.
he-
It's
he
like
was
the only parking lot
same
in the
intersection
area.
as the last witness,
Did you leave
but the
parade at
other
some point?
side of Maple, because
Yes, once my daughter's
the
team.
first one was southwest,
the
this
team
one was
passed by,
southeast.
We went to pick them up at the Cutler Park, which was the rallying area for after the parade.
It's
Where
tossed
is
word
Cutler Park in
salad.
relation to where you were observing the parade?
Would be about a block south and a block east.
Are there any public landmarks in that area other than the park itself?
The library's right there.
The Waukesha Library?
Yes.
What happened after you got to the Waukesha Library?
We picked my two girls up and we were intending to go back and finish the parade. But it was a little cold and windy and we decided to head home.
So what happened next?
It
We were
could be
walking back.
epic.
I'd driven separately. I came later.
I'm sure there will be
to
several
the parade to
freakouts
surprise
before
them.
that,
So I'd
though.
driven separately and we walked back to the middle school parking lot where my wife had parked.
I
My
do
wife
think
and
at this
her
point, though,
mother-in-law
there's
and
at least one
my,
not
youngest
guilty
daughter
of the
left with her, and
76
then
counts.
My older daughter and I.
Because they
continued to
haven't
walk toward my
rehabilitated
vehicle.
the missed testimony on
What
Lola
happened as you were walking
from the
toward your
dancing
vehicle?
grannies.
As we were walking south.
Because they haven't
down
established
Maple,
yet that she was injured, because the
on
one
the east side of
witness
the sidewalk.
said she was not
I
injured.
saw an SUV driving behind the houses on the west side of Maple. And I just assumed it was driving in a alley or a driveway. As I lost
I've
visual
never
of the
actually watched
SUV
Boston
was driving
Legal.
behind houses,
Is Alan
I heard a
Shore?
crash,
is
which
I'm assuming that's
I'm
either
familiar with. vehicle crashes.
Shatner
It sounded like a vehicle
or
crash. The vehicle then
what's his name?
emerged
James
a little bit
Spader.
further south from behind one of the residences there and drove down the driveway of that residence toward the street, toward my daughter and I.
And then what happened?
I saw that the front end of the SUV was severely damaged.
Yep,
And,
it was crumpled.
Put two and two together, thought the damage was from the crash I had just heard. So the vehicle came, so eastbound down the driveway toward the
been
sidewalk. I was standing across the street from
Rewatching
it, and then
the
it came to a
season
stop.
8 of The Blacklist, because season 9
I
was
saw
just
the-
put on
The
Netflix.
driver of the vehicle.
I think
exit.
Spader has been pretty good
the
in that
vehicle.
show.
He came around to the front of the vehicle, looked at it, and yelled "fuck." And
Always
appeared to be
swear in
panicked, went
court
back and got items out
if
of
you're
the
under oath.
driver's
and
side of the
can.
vehicle, and then ran south.
Always take the opportunity to swear in
The
court.
vehicle that you're talking about, do you remember what color it was?
It was a maroon Ford Escape.
What direction was the front of the vehicle facing when it came to a stop?
It's facing east.
And where were you in relation to the vehicle and the street?
It is easy,
Directly
but
across the street from it on the sidewalk.
the reality
Were there any
is,
vehicles between you
if-
and the
if I
red
were
SUV that you've described when you saw the
representing
driver
him,
get out?
No,
I
Were there
would.
any other obstructions between you
It
and
would
the
be
vehicle as you
malpractice
saw the
of
driver
me
get out?
not
No.
to stand up
Do you remember
as soon
approximately
as the
how
state rests
long
its case
in
and
seconds or
move
minutes
to
you
dismiss
saw
and
the
say the
driver,
state has not proved its
as he was getting
charges,
out and then leaving?
blah, blah,
was
blah. I move to
just a few
dismiss.
seconds.
That's always
If I
done.
had to
But I
guess,
would call
10 to
special
20.
attention
And
to
you've already said it was across the
that
street. Do you remember
charge for injuring Lola.
approximately how many feet it would have
And
been between you and the driver?
technically speaking, the judge should dismiss it
Overruled. You may
before
answer.
the defense even puts on its case. I don't know that he
If
knows
I had to guess, maybe
to
50
move
feet
for
at most
dismissal
from
or
one
to
side of
call
the street to the
attention to
other,
that
plus the
specific charge.
length of the vehicle.
Could you just
If he were
could you describe the
represented
lighting conditions
at
at that
this
time
moment,
in
that
terms of
charge wouldn't go
sunlight
to the
and
jury.
Street lamps, if there were any.
Objection,
Yeah, it was-
relevancy.
Overruled. You may answer.
It was pre-dusk, I would describe it as.
Getting dark.
How would you describe the physical appearance of the driver
What he was wearing?
and any other physical descriptors?
Well, he just looked to be kind of in a panic. Obviously, I just thought he was involved in a crash. And he was wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt and blue jeans.
You saw blue
What race?
jeans?
I
Or
would
did
Objection.
you see him get out of the
Hold on.
car?
Speculative.
Overruled. He may answer.
Did you see him get
I
out
would
of
have
the car?
described him as a light-skinned
Because you were at the end of the
possibly
parade.
male.
And you, in fact, you prepared you gave a statement to a fellow officer shortly after this happened, the next day, is that right?
Yes.
And that's the description you gave to that officer?
Yes.
You've seen
This jury definitely
news reports about
deserves
this
good
case
food.
in the days or the time since November 21st, is that right?
Yes.
And you've seen photographs of Darrell Brooks in other contexts, is that correct?
Objection, I do not consent to being called
Who
that name, nor do
cares?
I know that individual, and it's
Go ahead. You may answer the question.
speculative,
It's not speculative. Go
clearly.
ahead.
Yes.
The person you saw get out of the driver's seat of that SUV on November 21st, do you see that person in the courtroom today?
The
Yes.
objection is hearsay, how he's speaking as a first eye-hand witness.
That's not what hearsay is. That's so far from what
I
hearsay
believe he
is.
answered, but could you state it again?
Yes, I see him. He's sitting at the defense table wearing a suit with a blue tie and a
But,
white surgical mask.
I think
Just
juries
to be thorough,
tend to take their
please have
job
Mr. Brooks remove
very
his mask for a moment.
seriously.
Please.
So they
Mr. Brooks,
will
please
at
remove your
least
mask.
vote
Thank you. The record
and
will
determine
reflect that.
each element of each
How confident
charge.
are you in your identification today?
100%.
It might not take them very long
Is
on
your
each element of
identification in
each
court
charge,
today
but I think
colored
they
in
do
any
go
way
through the
by
list
seeing pictures
thoroughly.
of Mr. Brooks in other contexts?
Objection, speculative.
It's not speculative.
Overruled. He may
He's
answer.
asking about his
No.
own experience.
Can you describe the difference, if any, between Mr. Brooks's appearance today and his appearance on November 21st?
Objection, hearsay, and speculative.
It's neither one of those things. The objection is
Seriously,
overruled.
learn what
The
these
witness may
are.
answer.
Objection is
Learn,
relevant.
It is relevant. He may answer.
learn what
He
these things are that
identified
you're
me already,
objecting
so
to.
he said.
Mr. Brooks, please. The
I-
objection's been
Objection,
overruled.
I don't consent
witness
to
may answer.
Mr. Brooks.
He's got very short hair right now, and he didn't then.
What did his hair look like on November 21st?
Objection,
Overruled. You may answer.
relevancy.
Exactly. The
Go ahead. You may answer.
judge, after his
longer.
rant yesterday, said everything's on the
I'm going
record.
to ask that we put up for the witness
We're-
only
we're on the
exhibit number
record.
65, please.
We're in court.
Go ahead.
Ooh,
Do you see a video on the screen in front of you?
Yes.
We're going to play a few moments from that video just to give you a chance to see if you recognize what's shown. Okay, that's good. We played
he
7
doesn't
seconds out of the
consent.
total of 36 seconds.
And I do consent if he does have a stroke.
Video?
Yes.
What does it show?
It shows me walking southbound on the east side sidewalk of Maple, just south of, I think that's Prospect.
Oh, so he is in the
Walking with my
video.
dog Elvis and walking with my oldest daughter Ava.
Is that an accurate depiction?
Wait,
of
wait. He's
that
walking
scene
his
as you saw
dog
it today?
Elvis.
Objection,
Is that dog anything but a hound
You
dog?
may answer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Move Exhibit 65 into evidence.
And was he
ask
crying
for
at this time?
Exhibit 65 is received.
Permission to publish is granted.
Objection. Relevancy.
Overruled.
This is 36 seconds. Let's play it through one time at 100% speed, please. We can go ahead.
I mean, he did bring up treason yesterday. It looks like this video isn't from the parade. It's at a different point of time. I don't know if it's to show that the witness is familiar with this area, or I'm not quite getting what this is yet. Although I'm sure there is a reason.
Back to the beginning and pause it at the beginning there. Do you see yourself at the beginning of this video?
Yes.
Could you circle yourself for us? That's a touch screen. Just use your finger.
Sort of top middle.
Thank you. We can clear that. You're the only person walking a dog in this video. Is that right?
Well, there's someone walking
Yes.
with him.
Okay. Let's play and we'll pause at another point. Pause there at 4 seconds. You mentioned Prospect. Could you draw a line down Prospect for us? Okay, so that's the only cross street we can see clearly in the video. Correct?
Yes.
And do you see any vehicles on Prospect at this point?
Two.
Could you circle the one with?
Clearly more than 2 vehicles.
No,
On
there's
Prospect.
on
I'll
Prospect.
clarify.
No, you said on Prospect. He answered. His answer may stand.
Where's Prospect? Where
He
He
drew
already drew
a
a
line.
The witness would
Come on.
redraw the line for Mr. Brooks. Thank you. Go ahead.
Do either of those vehicles have, appearing to you today, to have an inoperable headlight?
Yes.
Which one? If you could circle it, please.
Objection leading.
It's not leading. He may answer.
He
Thank you.
definitely
Clear that.
is not at the
And
level
we'll
of
resume
first
at 4
year law
seconds,
student.
please.
He's not at the level of a first day law student. He's a first year jailhouse lawyer. I still don't get the point of this video.
Pause. Paused at 27 seconds. Do you see on the video right now the person you recall being the driver of that vehicle?
Yes.
Could you please circle that person for us? I'd like to mark and preserve this annotation as Exhibit 65A, please, and move it into evidence.
Objection. Hearsay.
The objection is overruled. Exhibit 65A is received. Go ahead.
Yes, please. The clothing worn by the person you just circled, does that match your memory of what the driver was wearing that day?
Yes.
Okay, and let's play from this point, 27 seconds.
That's so hard to see.
And we'll stop there. From the 27-second point to the end of the video, the person who you circled, does that match your memory of what the driver did that day after he got out of the SUV?
Yes.
I
What did you do
is
next?
This video.
I attempted to call 911 to report a crash.
If we could take the video
Okay.
down, please. Did you get through on the first call?
No.
What about the second?
No.
Dispatch was
Third?
probably overwhelmed.
Did you eventually get through?
Fourth time.
Objection. Hearsay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the answer.
It's not
The objection
hearsay.
is overruled. Could you please restate your answer, sir?
I believe I
Whether
got
or
through
not
on the
he
fourth.
got a hold of 911 is not
And that's when
hearsay.
you reported what you saw?
Yes.
Do you know what
Thank you.
state he was in? Matthew
Any
Cox.
questions on cross-exam for this witness?
I do. Can we pull that exhibit back up again? And publish,
65 will be shown. Go ahead.
and publish.
Granted. Permission granted to publish. It's been received.
Okay, so looking at the map,
Let me know
Main
if yours
Street
when
runs kind of
65 is in
diagonal,
the jury box. It's
and
up.
then
Okay.
the parade ended when
Okay,
it
right as
curved
this
onto
pause right now,
West
it's not
Avenue.
playing, it's at 0.
Prospect was the third cross street.
Would it be fair to say that to the, I guess that would be my right of the screen, you can see a white looking SUV by the
So he's out of
by the
prison
walkway
now.
where people would be able to cross the street? Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
And would it be fair to say that the side street that you lined as being Prospect, I think you said it was, where the 2 do not enter signs are, that would be the side street you're referring to? Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that from the position that you're in, approximately here, and the side street being here,
And just so the record is clear, Mr. Brooks has annotated the touch screen with a line
On Prospect.
depicting the direction of Prospect, intersecting with the street, the perpendicular street. I apologize, I don't remember
Which
the
is
name.
West
And then an
Avenue.
X where
Prospect, you said?
Prospect is the street in the direction of the line, but there's a cross street there.
Okay.
But the X is indicating where this witness, his dog, and his daughter are in the video. Go ahead.
So from where you're positioned right here by the X, you can see down this street from the position you're in.
No.
So how were you able to see if a vehicle would be coming from this way from the position you're
Because
at?
he's walking, he could have seen the vehicle.
I didn't see the
Before he
vehicle
got
driving on
that
Prospect.
far.
I saw it driving behind the houses through the yards.
Ooh.
So you were able to see the vehicle behind houses.
Between houses,
You
behind.
said
houses.
behind. You said behind.
Right, through the yards behind the houses.
And you were able to see
And he
that from
could
where you were.
see
Yes.
between the houses. So
Can you
you're
take
driving
those
behind,
marked
but there's a
lines and
gap between the
shut
houses.
down? Can you play it a little bit? I'll tell you when to pause.
You just confirmed you want full speed?
Yeah, I guess that would be regular, whatever is the regular speed.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry about that.
Go ahead.
Would it be fair to say from,
Do you want it
Okay, we
paused?
just saw
oh,
him
no, not
turn
yet, just, you can let it play.
off of
I'll say, I
Prospect
think it's 36
behind
seconds,
the
so.
houses.
Would it be fair to say
Because there
from,
were 2
Well, hold
cars
the
on
video's
Prospect.
showing,
He
so
turned
wait till it's done playing and
behind
then ask a question.
before reaching west.
Or have us pause where you want it paused.
pause? So it's paused at 18 seconds for the record.
Hey,
Would it be fair to say that in the
I mean, it
18
does
seconds
take
shown
some
to
of the
this
same
point,
skills sometimes.
you're pretty much just walking the dog, moving around, just walking normal? You don't make any sudden moves to the left to look, or you don't stop in your tracks or anything. You're just walking along. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Why would he?
And you also made reference to hearing a crash. What point did you hear the crash?
Sometime while a vehicle was driving behind the houses.
Why didn't you immediately stop in your tracks and say you just heard something? Why do you just keep moving as if you heard anything? Nothing.
I just turned my head to see if I could see anything, and I didn't see anything.
And so you just kept moving.
Correct.
So basically it was just like, oh, do, walking the dog.
Yes.
Yeah, he thought.
Can you play? Pause it. Would it be fair to say that another roughly 8 seconds to play, from 18 seconds to 26 seconds, still you didn't stop in your tracks, still you didn't turn to look at the other side of the street in any manner. You're continuing doing what you're doing. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So,
Why so nonchalant?
because he didn't know you had just murdered
When the
6
vehicle
people.
emerged from the back of the house, I saw that it was damaged, and then in my mind, I knew what I had heard.
With all respect, that wasn't the question.
You're
Why
not
so
respectful
nonchalant
at
at that
all.
point?
I didn't think it was anything of great emergency at that point. I just figured that an intoxicated driver may have just struck another vehicle in the back of that alley, and now he was going to
It's only in the
run.
3rd edition.
And being being in law enforcement, why would you not investigate that if you heard something crash? Why, being an officer of the law, why would you not investigate that?
He was walking his dog with his
I was with my
daughter.
daughter, and I would in no way put her in harm's way.
He's not
Well,
a
I
Waukesha
would think it
police
would be fair to say
officer,
that you can handle yourself.
and he's walking his dog with
You're
his
obviously
daughter.
a officer of the law. You're trained.
He's
to be able
not a
to handle
Waukesha
yourself.
police officer.
Would
He's
it be
not
fair
going
to
to
say
put
that
his
you
daughter
could've
in danger.
at least investigated the sound that you heard? It sound like a crash, at least.
Objection.
Grounds.
Sustained. It's also a compound question. Please rephrase.
So all these thoughts, maybe it was just a drunk driver and they're gonna run anyway, and all these thoughts, and that never piqued your interest to investigate?
He's not going to
Sometimes
investigate in
Being a good witness
Waukesha.
is the best thing to do. That's why I called 911 to report it immediately.
Now that's fair, but
He's a
being an officer of the law, you're
Wauwatosa
right there.
police officer,
Again,
not a
objection.
Waukesha police
Question,
officer.
also asked and answered, also argumentative.
Sustained as to the form of the question. You don't need to answer, sir. Next question, please.
what if someone may have been hurt at that point? You don't think you would have an obligation to investigate if
No.
someone may have been injured
No.
at that point?
He has no duty.
That's why I called 911.
Can you play the rest of the video?
We sure can. Go ahead.
It did a weird little motion thing. That's probably from the camera. I would guess. But
Don't
in
testify.
that entire video, is it fair to say that you did not reach for a phone and
He
take out
he
a
said
phone
he called 911 4
your pockets or
times.
anything in any way?
I
That be fair to say?
I can't tell if I did. from the video
Exactly,
itself.
Static.
I know
So when
It's
did you make the call?
everyone's fault but
at some
mine.
point after you
I mean,
started running.
Brooks had a duty
Who's
to
you?
stop and render
The
aid.
defendant.
The officer
the driver
did
of the
not.
vehicle.
So how long after you saw the driver of the vehicle?
I mean, he could have rendered
did
aid
you
outside
make
of
the
his
911
jurisdiction,
call?
but he was
Within
not
seconds, I
obligated
believe.
to.
Is it fair to say that we don't see that on the video?
The video is very small at that point. It's hard to
Is it
see.
fair to say we don't see you do that on the video?
Yes.
Can we pull the video back up?
Objection, we just watched it.
Can you take it to 27 seconds and pause at 27? Can you, maybe 28? I may be mistaken. Maybe just go one more second. Maybe to 28.
Because that'll make a
Or
big
you know what?
difference.
No, keep your pause right there. Would it be fair to say that you noticed the vehicle in this area right there?
He saw you
Yes.
between the houses as you drove behind it.
Can you remove the X? And what do you see right there?
A circle.
I don't understand.
Do you see anything right there?
A circle.
An individual, anything? Do you see anything right there?
It's
Inside
hard to
the
tell
circle?
from that picture what I can see.
Can you move it? Can we blow it up a little bit or move it closer? Just a little bit.
I don't know that it can be zoomed in. Does that
Can it-
state
can
have
it be
that
zoomed in?
capability?
So we can zoom in, as long as the defendant's okay with just
dispensing with any technological foundation issues there, but we can zoom in. We have the ability to do that.
Would you like it zoomed in?
What do you mean by not, say that again? I'm
It
sorry.
means it's editing
We can
the
zoom in if you
video.
want to.
It's editing the
Can you
exhibit.
zoom in just a little bit? Just a smidge.
It's not a true representation of what the camera captured. A true and complete representation.
That's the extent of our zooming capabilities with this
No,
software.
that's fine, that's
And
fine.
besides which, the
Can you see anything there?
video is a display. He testified
It looks
about
like
what
something
he
white. I don't
saw
know if that's
in
the
real
driver.
time.
Looks like something white.
It's hard to say in the video exactly what he's seeing,
Yes.
but this is a
Light colored.
representation of what he saw in real time.
White color
And he
what?
was much
light
closer
Light
to
color, but
this
you did say
than
white.
the
Is that fair
camera
to say that you
is.
just said white?
I just did say white.
Can we erase the circle? Zoom back out, take the, it's like a box there in the corner that's
It's a
kind of
white
the
or a
whole
light gray hoodie.
exhibit off. Take it back to the regular. You testified earlier
I
that you
purposely avoided that
saw the
trial.
driver with gray hoodie, as you referred to it. Do you recall saying that?
Yes.
It was light gray or white.
What I just circled right there, would you, from your recollection, say that that was the driver you saw?
I don't know what that is at this point.
You don't-
It's
you
just
don't
a
know?
paused video. It could be a glare, could be a person. I don't know. You could play it again.
Well, let's play it again.
Yep.
From the 27th.
Keep
Stop right
playing
there.
it. Keep
Okay.
playing
Yeah,
it.
from
Every
the
time you
27
play it,
mark. I think it just played maybe what, a
It gets
second,
better and
half a
better
second
for
or something
you.
like that. Did you see that whatever you said you didn't know what it was, could have been a person, could have been something else? Did you see it move from the position that it was before?
Yes.
And you also identified that that was white, right? That's what you said, correct?
I did say that.
white versus light gray. It's
And would it be fair to say that you saw the driver in gray? Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
from that
Take the
distance,
circle off.
it's hard to tell white from light gray.
You also stated that you were about 50 feet from
He was
the
across the street.
well, you added the vehicle in too. You said maybe 50 feet, and then depending on the length of the vehicle, would that be fair to say?
Yes.
And from where you are here,
The video
to
depicts
here.
him being about 50 feet.
would it be fair to say we can't see a
It
vehicle
might be less. It might be 30 or 40.
in
Sidewalk,
the picture
8
at that
feet,
point? Would that be fair to
12
say
feet
we can't
per
see a
lane,
vehicle
parking
that
lane
would
of
be
10
facing you because
feet.
you said it was facing you? We can't see a vehicle. Would that be fair to say?
From this angle of vehicles obstructed, yes.
So that would be 50 feet from approximately 50 feet from X to X.
Approximately.
I think it's
And you were
less. I think
able
it's
to see
40.
the driver and a description from where you're standing now
I'd be able to.
to where the other X is.
Yes.
And you were able to make out the race
I'd
of
be
the
able
driver
to.
from where you were
That's
at.
not a wide street.
I guessed.
You
on
guessed.
race.
So you're not for certain.
I wasn't for certain at that time.
He didn't just see you there, though. He saw you run away. This isn't static. It's in motion.
So what conclusion were you coming to at
The
that point?
officer had testified
Just
he saw it
educated
in
guess, or-
gray, but in the video it looks white.
Can you explain
So
further?
that's
How-
what
how-
the quibble is.
Would it be fair to say that your guess could have been inaccurate?
Could have been.
I mean, you could pass for
And
Italian, you could pass for Persian,
You also
you
stated
could
that
pass for Greek.
you saw news reports and a description of the driver on the news. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
And you made reference to the driver's hair. Would that be fair to say?
In my testimony, yes.
You brought up the hair is what I'm saying. You said
It's
long
easy
hair.
enough,
That'd be fair to
Darlene.
say?
Yes.
And
He
you
goes
would
in
be able to
circles.
see hair
He goes
if
in
you
circles.
describe the driver wearing a hoodie.
Yes.
You'll be able to see hair and tell the length of the hair.
If it's hanging out of the hoodie, yes.
Well, you didn't say, all fairness, you didn't say it was hanging out of the hoodie. You just referred
He
to the
said he
hair.
saw
Yes.
long hair, and that's
Is it-
Hold on,
argumentative.
there's been an objection. I believe the witness understood the question, so I'll overrule the objection. His answer may stand. Next question.
Is it any possible way you could have gotten a description from the news reports instead of what you actually recall?
No.
And how did you determine that?
Because he saw
In
you.
the report I gave in my statement, I described what I saw that day, not what I saw in the news.
And you also described two different colors of dress. Once you said gray and one you said white. Would that be fair to say?
He said in the
I
video
said
it
that
looks
the
white
item
from
in
that
the
distance.
Video appeared to be white.
Did you not say that the item moved? As you say item, did you not say the item moved from where it was at?
Yes.
Would it be
I
fair to
mean,
say that
it's hard
there
to
can be
tell,
no
Grip.
movement to an
The-
item if it wasn't
In the close-up
a person?
photos we've seen,
Yes.
it's either very light gray or
A person
white.
that you described wearing white.
From that
On the
distance,
video screen, it appeared white.
from that distance on the video screen,
It
you
appeared
couldn't
light colored or
tell.
white.
but he was
Would
much
it be fair to say
closer
that you
in
said
real
white? That
life.
was your first.
Yes.
could
At any time in that video, could you see hair
could
In
you
the
see
video?
here?
in the video?
You can't see very much in the video. No.
But he was much closer when he identified you in real life. He saw your hair hanging out of the hoodie.
After making the 911 call, did you return back to the scene where you noticed the vehicle?
Yes.
And did you investigate at that point?
Why would he investigate? Police would
So what
investigate.
changed from
He was
the
a
point that
witness.
you heard a crash, as you say, and then returning back to where you saw the vehicle? What changed between those times?
As I was talking to the 911 dispatcher, I wanted to give them better details about the
Exactly.
vehicle, so
Was
I
it
walked back
cream
over.
white or was it
So at
eggshell
the time,
white?
at the time that you initially made the 911 call, there were still details about what you saw that you were unsure of. Would that be fair to say?
I believe they asked me what the license plate was, and I couldn't see it from where I was at, so I walked back over to give that to them.
So you couldn't see the license plates of the vehicle from where you were at.
There was no license plate on the front of the vehicle, so I could not
But
see
he
it.
walked back and told them.
So you came back to investigate if there was a license plates that you can identify.
Yes.
Did you investigate what you may have heard the vehicle strike?
That's not
No.
his job. That's the
Any reason why
Waukesha
not?
police's
By
job.
that time, a large crowd had gathered, and there were sirens. I could hear them in the distance, and the police were responding rather quickly.
So you didn't take the opportunity to see if anyone from saying that you heard a loud crash, you didn't take the opportunity to investigate if anyone may have been hurt
No,
from that loud crash?
I didn't know.
That
Any
is
reason why
not
not?
his
No reason.
job. He's not in Wauwatosa on duty.
Any other details about the driver that you can recall? As far as further clothing?
No, I thought at some point I saw Packers logo on his clothing or something to that effect.
Did you put that in your report?
Yes.
He didn't make a report. He gave a statement.
At any time, have you read or saw a complaint in this matter?
Why would he?
No, just my report.
Any other officers that came to the scene? Because you made reference to officers was responding by the time you came back to give more details to the dispatcher, more officers were arriving. Do you recall if any one of those officers investigated the loud crash you heard?
I'm unaware.
But it would be fair to say that they gave reports from what they observed.
How would he
coming to
know
the scene.
what
Would that be
reports
fair to
they
say?
made? That's
Yes.
speculation.
Do you recall any of them asking you of a description of what you saw?
I didn't speak to any officers on scene that day.
Any reason why not?
They were busy.
Just left.
Seeing as how
Let
that
him answer.
you made
Let him
the
answer.
initial 911 call. I'm sure the officers were probably responding by that time anyway, but seeing as how you made the
Let him
911 call,
answer.
you didn't collaborate with the other officers to try to, like piece together what you may have saw.
I'll object to the characterization that that was the first 911 call.
I didn't say first. I said he made the initial 911 call.
Initial means first, so sustained is to the form of the question.
All those YouTubey things.
Besides, well, let me back up. After seeing the description on the news, did you say to yourself, that's the driver that I saw?
I recognized the driver as the person I saw on TV and or social media. Yes.
Social media or the news?
I don't recall, probably both.
Both. Did you report that?
When I gave my statement, that's what I told them. Yes.
So they already had a suspect by the time that they had already arrested you by the time he made his statement.
And did you report that description before or after you saw it on the news or social media or both?
I gave a statement the very next morning. I worked at 6 a.m. I reported it to my supervisor, who contacted Waukesha investigators and had one of our detectives take a statement from me that morning. The statement.
Oh, so you gave your statement to Wauwatosa
scene, not
detectives.
what I saw on TV or social media.
So
that doesn't count.
By that next morning, you had already seen reports on the news or social media.
Yeah.
Or
yes,
both.
Yes.
And your report was the next morning. So could it have been fair to say that that's where you got the description?
No, he saw you.
No.
Did you learn any additional information that you don't recall having via social media or the news after you had already made your report?
What?
I don't understand the question.
Did you learn any additional information after you had already given your report?
Learn information about what?
About the description of the driver, what had happened at the parade, anything?
Well, originally I had no idea what had happened at the parade. I thought it was just, I witnessed a hit and run crash. I had no clue what had happened at the parade.
So you just said now you witnessed a hit and run crash.
He says that was
But
what
you
he
also
thought
said
at
that
first.
You didn't investigate the crash that you heard.
Why would he investigate? He wasn't on duty. It's not his.
So how would you characterize it as a hit and run crash if you never investigate what you heard?
Well,
He
'cause I heard
doesn't
a
have
crash
to
and then
investigate
driver
what he
ran.
thought.
Well, you also stated, to be fair, that you didn't investigate the crash.
He heard
So
a
how
crash.
was it
He
any
saw
way
you
to
run.
know
No
what you were
investigation needed to
if you
form
didn't
that
investigate?
opinion.
Because I heard a crash and I saw the driver run. So in
Boom.
my mind, I assumed that was a hit and run crash.
So it was an assumption, you didn't know?
Yes. I heard a crash. I didn't see the crash.
Correct. So
Correct.
would it be fair to
That's
say that
argumentative.
from the assumption that there was a hit and run crash, as you say, the only way to know for sure where the crash came from would be to investigate? Would that be fair to say?
No,
Yes.
he gave his impression of
And
what
you
he
stated for the record that
experienced.
you did not do that, correct?
What?
Yes.
It's not his job to investigate.
So why would you report it as a hit and run crash if you were
He
not
reported
sure
it
what
as a
was?
possible hit and run. He
Well,
said
based on
that's
my
what
training
his
experience as a crash
impression
investigator,
was.
that's what I thought it was.
Did you talk to any of the people that lived in those
He
houses
didn't
to see if they
investigate.
had heard the same thing you heard?
I spoke to maybe a resident of the apartment or the house right there who just said that the vehicle didn't belong there.
Did they report to you that they heard any crash?
No, not that I recall.
Did they report to you that they saw a driver?
No.
He wasn't investigating.
So as far as you can recall, you were the only
Just
one that heard
about.
the crash.
As far as I know, yes.
From the time the judge says, let's go on the record, till the time the judge says, we're off the record, everything's on the record. The only reason to say for the record is for the record,
No
the
further
witness is
questions.
nodding. Stuff like that.
Any redirect?
Yes, please, thank you. You testified that you didn't investigate the sound of this crash, correct?
Yes.
Were you off duty that day?
Yes.
When you're off duty, do you carry a police radio with you?
Objection, that is irrelevant.
No.
It's an officer of the law.
It's not
Overruled. You may
irrelevant.
answer.
No.
So if you did get into a pickle, you wouldn't be able to call for backup, would you?
Objection.
Generally, they would
He
be,
still has a cell phone.
because they're arguing
You may answer the
law
question.
in the sidebars.
Correct.
So the jury can't hear.
Your daughter,
but
the one that
court
we saw on
reporter is
exhibit
recording it
65, I
because
believe.
that needs to be on the record for
65.
appeal.
Is she a sworn law enforcement officer?
Objection, irrelevant.
Overruled. You may answer.
No.
I mean, you made a big deal about whether they investigated
At
or
the time
not.
you heard the crash but didn't
So it is
investigate it,
relevant.
did you know that the vehicle that you saw had been involved in hitting dozens of people on Main Street minutes
Objection.
earlier?
Objection, asked during cross, answered.
That's
Overruled. He may answer.
I had no idea.
if it's the first time the prosecution.
When the driver got out,
I mean,
and just to
you
clarify
asked
again,
on
who
cross.
was the driver?
So many questions they asked on direct. So
Darrell Brooks,
could
Darrell
they have
Brooks.
Objection, I don't consent to
objected?
being called that name, and
Mr. Brooks, I'm sorry.
I don't consent to being called that
Who
name.
cares? Give them a different name to call you.
Noted. Next question, please.
Did you see anybody else get out of the vehicle?
No.
When you went back to check the vehicle, was there anybody inside?
No.
On this issue of the white clothing, can we please show for everybody exhibit number 120, which has previously been published?
Go ahead.
You see exhibit number 120 on the screen in front of you?
Yes.
This is
You see the
one
person
of the earliest
who appears to
photos
be
we
behind the
saw.
driver's wheel of the red SUV in that picture?
Objection, what is the relevancy?
Overruled. You may answer.
It's identifying if you're the
How would
person
you
he
describe
saw.
the color of the shirt that that person's wearing?
You made a big deal about the color of
Light
the
gray
hoodie.
or white?
He's showing the hoodie. And he said light gray or white. Because it's hard to see, especially through the car window.
That's all I have for this witness.
All right, thank you. You may step down.
May this witness be excused from this appeal?
He may.
Is his body count higher than Walter White?
All right, I am going to excuse the jurors and actually take a recess. It's a little bit later, but we'll take our late morning break at this point, about 15 minutes or so. I'll rise for the jury, please.
All right. I'm going to take my 2 or 3 minute break and then come back and fast forward. Although I'll wait till they cut the feed, see if he has any antics first. I'm assuming he waits until the jury's on its way and then starts with his antics. Oh, he's giving side eye. He's giving side
All
eye.
right, we are in recess. Please be back in 15 minutes.
All right, I'm back. And while I fast forward, since Steve brought up Walter White, doesn't that deputy behind Brooks look just like Howard Hamlin in Better Call Saul? I know I've said it before, but I still think he looks just like him. Oop, a little too far. Okay. That's just about there. That puts us just over 5 minutes behind the live. So,
Thank you.
all
You may be
right.
seated.
Here they come.
There's no history on them because they're all blacked out. But when I click on that, it'll take me to the amendment. But the Wisconsin one is for 1975 is 200 pages long. I've been digging.
Yeah, okay. All right, welcome back, everyone.
Wonder
We'll
what
have
they're
the jury
talking about
brought
being
out,
200
and,
pages
The
long.
state may call its next witness when the jury is out here. Go ahead.
Okay, he's gonna start complaining.
Subject matter jurisdiction, Your Honor.
I told you. Jury's on its way. Subject matter jurisdiction.
Does that need to be noted for the record?
It does not need to be
Your
noted for
objection
the
is noted
record.
for the record. I don't believe the audio's on. Your objection is noted for the record. I addressed that yesterday.
She's addressed it
will
over
not
and
be
over
addressing
and
it
over
again.
and over.
Was I at least heard for the record? Because you just stated that the audio wasn't on.
I heard it.
Did the record hear it?
Yes.
So they heard me say the subject matter jurisdiction
Yes.
hasn't been verified or proved yet?
All right.
She heard you. And she doesn't have to prove jurisdiction. She has ruled. She has jurisdiction.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. And the state may call its next witness.
State calls Officer Bryce Scholten.
All right, Officer Scholten, if you would please make your way to the witness stand. When you get there, please remain standing. Raise your right hand. My clerk, Teresa, who's on my left, will swear you in.
He's in a suit. He's in a suit. Does that mean he's not being paid to testify?
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
That's a
so help
beard
you
and a
God?
half.
Thank you, sir. Please have a
And
seat.
ginger at that, at least in this lighting.
The first thing I will ask you to do is to state your first and last names for the record and spell each.
Bryce Scholten, spelled B-R-Y-C-E. Scholten is S-C-H-O-L-T-E-N.
Thank you. Go ahead, your witness.
Thank you. What line of work are you in?
I'm a police officer for the city of Waukesha.
How long have you been a Waukesha police officer?
7.5 years.
What's your current assignment?
Currently, I'm a specialist assigned to the Criminal Investigations Division.
What about back in November of 2021? What was your assignment back then?
I was a police officer.
Were you working as a police officer on November 21st of 2021?
Yes, I was.
Were you assigned to work at the Waukesha Christmas Parade?
Yes, I was.
Do you recall where you were posted during the parade?
My assignment was traffic control at the intersection of Northwest Avenue and Wisconsin Avenue.
So that's
put up for
that's
jury
at the
exhibit number
end.
one, which is previously
That's
been-
basically as the parade loops back around into the de-staging area.
Could you circle for us the intersection where you were posted on
Yes.
this map? Actually, it's a touch. Use your finger.
Just use your finger.
I may want to take that away.
Yeah, that's the point I was describing.
Thank you.
Okay, so you've circled the intersection of West Main Street
And,
and Wisconsin Avenue, correct?
The previous
What is
witness
the purple line
testified directly
map?
south of this.
The purple line is the parade route for the Christmas parade.
But then what happens to the purple line at Maine and Wisconsin?
That is where the line stops. That is, I believe, where the vehicle left the parade route.
The vehicles and the groups and the participants of the parade who were marching on the parade route, where did they go once they got to the intersection of Maine and Wisconsin?
They continued down the parade route, which was eastbound on Wisconsin Avenue. And then after reaching Maple Avenue, then they were to go southbound.
And the library is near that intersection, is that right?
Correct.
traffic coming eastbound on Wisconsin Avenue from the west, were they able to get through the intersection where you were posted?
No, I had
Maple
traffic
is the
blocked
first
off
street
where I circled there. You can
after
barely see anymore, but
West
the
Avenue.
red line, that is how I had barricades across that intersection.
So basically,
So
that's
all
one block
eastbound
on
traffic
Wisconsin.
on Wisconsin was forced to go southbound on Northwest Avenue.
Okay, what about traffic approaching from the south on, West Avenue?
Yes, so northbound traffic on Northwest Avenue could only go westbound on Wisconsin Avenue.
Do you recall what you were wearing that day?
Objection.
Overruled.
Yes, I was wearing my standard police uniform with external carrier and a police jacket. And on my outermost layer was a like neon traffic vest.
High vis.
We could take this exhibit down, please.
What was that number again?
1.
Thank you. That's what I thought.
Were you the only police officer stationed at that intersection?
Yes, I was.
Do you know approximately how far away the next closest officer would have been?
I believe the next closest officer was approximately 2 blocks away.
Did you have a police radio with you while you were standing in the intersection?
Yes, I did.
At some point, did you hear something on the radio that concerned you?
Yes.
Describe that for us.
I heard, so the parade was on channel 3, so that's what I was assigned to. These radios also have the ability to scan other channels, so I was scanning channel 1, which is what the road squads were working on. At that time, I heard a call for service on channel 1 for the road squads to be dispatched to, and it was some sort of domestic disturbance or fight in Frame Park, which was east of my location. I heard squads responding to that from the south portion of the city, and Northwest Avenue or West Avenue is one of the main thoroughfares in our city to get from the southern portion to the northern portion, or at least to the downtown area. And I could hear squads coming from that area, so I blocked traffic to allow the squads to get through. And then I just continued on with my parade duties.
What happened next?
After that, approximately a minute or so later, I believe I started hearing radio traffic on both channel 3 and channel 1. I believe either a reserve officer or a community service officer on channel 3 requested an ambulance somewhere on the eastern portion of the parade route. I remember it was sort of towards the beginning of the parade. They were asking for an ambulance because someone had been hit.
Then what happened?
I believed that it was something stemming from the domestic or the fight, because during that fight, someone had
certainly
fled on
guessed
scene,
right.
someone had been flagged down who had reported this incident. So I believed that the hit was something to do with the physical altercation that had happened. Moments later, this was all sort of spun out of control very quickly. Radio traffic became more and more difficult as channel 1 and channel 3. So as officers on the road and officers and community service officers and reserve officers were working the parade, everyone was starting to get on the radio, and more people started calling for ambulances. And then I could tell as people were calling for them, it was moving westbound on the parade route.
And it was the
What did
same
you do as a result of hearing that
police
information on
code
the radio?
over and over and over.
It was tough to piece all together. I didn't know
everyone
exactly
get
what was
your
going
ass
on.
here.
I knew
Something
something
big
was
is going
happening,
down.
but I didn't know exactly what. I have a collar mic, so my microphone was approximately right about here on my chest. I don't have an earpiece. That's just what I use. So between trying to listen to the radio microphone and the parade, it was sort of hard to piece together. But after a few minutes, I realized something was happening. I began walking away from my post, and I walked past my barricade sort of into the parade route. And as I did that, I was looking more to like northeast. I couldn't see that much of the parade because where West Main Street ends right there, it's got a hard turn to go southbound to Wisconsin. So I could only see approximately, I don't even know, maybe 100 yards or less of the parade route. And at that point, that is when I started hearing more screams. And this time it wasn't just screams on my radio. It was screams like in my vicinity that I could hear.
Those are both
And
definitely
at that moment,
Aussie
I saw a red blur
slang.
come past the Wisconsin house westbound and make a very hard braking maneuver to navigate the left-hand turn
Oh,
on West
so
Main
he
Street.
did brake
go
eventually
And let's put
South
exhibit
to
one.
effectuate a turn.
Let's put exhibit one back up, please.
As you're putting Exhibit 1 back up, I just want to make a record of the hand gesture he made previously when testifying about, I believe it was his radio microphone. He used his right hand, I would say about heart height, to indicate his, I believe he called it a
It's
lapel
more collarbone.
mic or something to do with his radio and where he would hear from. Go ahead.
Objection. I don't think he said lapel. I think he was just.
She
I
was
think he referred to the
describing where it
microphone just
was.
Being here and not using the earpiece. That's
She was
just-
Your
describing where it
objection
was.
is noted. The state can seek clarification, but the fact, I did my best to describe the action of the officer on the stand. Go ahead.
Thank you. Can we actually zoom in on the bottom left corner of this map? You mentioned the Wisconsin house. Can you describe for us where that is?
The Wisconsin house is actually this building right here that is tan. It's the farthest building right before, I guess, on the left portion.
You just
On
put a little dot
Wisconsin
there.
Avenue.
That should be the Wisconsin house.
Okay, so the, right as the Main Street curves to the left there? That's
Correct.
what I'm getting
It is
Or-
the, I believe it's the last building sort of on West Main Street right before the
Okay.
left turn.
now. So if you were standing in the intersection of Wisconsin and Main, the Wisconsin house is the building that would obstruct your view further east up Main Street?
Correct. There's a parking lot to the left as you look at the screen, and the vehicle's parked there. So I can't even see pretty much anything in front of the Wisconsin house on Main Street from my location.
We can take that back down, please. What happened as the red blur rounded the corner?
I realized what was happening at that point. I recognized it was a red SUV and there was extreme vehicle damage to it on the front.
Oh, yeah.
The hood was smashed up towards the windshield.
There was a
the
90-degree angle at
portion
the
of the
hood.
front bumpers, the fenders, everything was, it was extreme vehicle damage, like vehicle damage that you'd see at a traffic crash between two vehicles. At that point, between all the screaming, I heard everyone calling for ambulances and help, and then realizing people hit, I knew it was now people hit by a vehicle, and I knew that those initial requests were so far eastbound on the parade, and now I'm at towards the end of the parade, or at least the end of the portion of Main Street. I knew that this vehicle had likely, and based on the speed of the vehicle, that the vehicle had ran through the entire parade route and likely severely injured people or killed people. And at that point, I thought it was a terror attack at the parade.
Oh, get that T word in there.
The SUV
Get that
continued
T
southbound.
word.
As the vehicle navigated its turn to
Jerry
go
eats
southbound,
that
it
one
accelerated towards me. That is when I knew I had to use deadly force to stop the threat.
Oh, so he's the one that
And
fired.
as the vehicle was approaching me, I remembered making the decision that the easiest shot likely would have been through the windshield. However, I remembered the entire backdrop were just surrounded
The
with
crowds.
kids and people. So I waited for the vehicle to pass me and tried to direct my rounds as most southern as I could because there were less people in that direction.
Where were you standing in the intersection as the vehicle passed you?
At this point, I had walked
Once again,
northbound
this is a dangerous place
slightly,
shooting
so I was
in
I
a
believe, just out of the
extreme
intersection at
but it's
West
justified.
in Wisconsin. So I was on. I
There's
believe
no
by shots,
question that
I
this
was
was
technically
justified.
on Main Street at the time when I began shooting.
Using cardinal directions, can you describe for us which side of you the SUV passed?
Objection. What is cardinal?
Cardinal.
Overruled.
What is a
Your witness may
cardinal
answer.
direction?
The vehicle
North,
passed
south, east, west.
to the east of me.
What direction were you facing as it first started to pass you?
I was facing north.
So that would have been on the vehicle would have passed you on your right.
Correct.
How close did you come to the vehicle as it passed you?
I mean,
very
objection. I don't
close.
understand the
I
word.
believe
Can I
At
have
the
Black's
time,
Law
I
Dictionary?
remember stepping to my left. It was so close I felt like I could touch the side of the vehicle.
Could you see into the vehicle?
Yes, I could.
How many people could you see inside of the vehicle?
I saw one person.
Where was that person in the vehicle?
That person was at the driver's seat of the vehicle.
Did you get a good look at the driver?
Yes, I did.
Do you see the driver in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
Your Honor, I'd ask Mr. Brooks please remove his mask for a moment.
Thank you for doing that.
In a way, this is kind of prejudicial having him remove his
Can you
mask
identify the driver
to
in the courtroom
identify
if you
him
see
because
Yes, the driver is seated at the defense
it
wearing a blue tie and blue shirt underneath
It-
his
it-
suit jacket.
it
That's
calls
the record
attention
reflect that the
before
witness
he
is
makes the
identified.
identification. Calls his attention
will
to
The witness has
Brooks.
identified the defendant as the driver of the vehicle he saw on November 21.
Objection. I'm the
What happened
alleged
after the
defendant
vehicle
and the
passed you on your
traveler,
right?
not the driver.
After the vehicle passed me on my right, I began
I'm really surprised he
firing
hasn't made
at the
objections
driver
of
of the vehicle.
driving versus traveling.
And as that happened, he ran over the barricades and ultimately
Oh,
left the
so
parade route
it's
and
almost like
continued
he could have
southbound on
exited
Northwest
Main
Avenue.
Street at any point over the
West
barricades.
Avenue is
They weren't stopping
how many
him
blocks
from continuing down the
from
parade
Maple
route.
Avenue?
One
Imagine
block.
that.
Relevancy.
Overruled.
And to what direction is west from Maple?
West Avenue is one block to the west from Maple.
I'd like to show for the witness only, please, exhibit number 57. Can we clear the annotations? You see a video on the screen in front of you?
Yes, I do.
We're going to play a few moments without any audio just to see if you recognize this video, okay?
Okay.
We've played 7 seconds for you. Do you recognize this video?
Yes, I do.
What does it show?
This is the vehicle that was driven by Darrell Brooks
Objection.
during the Christmas parade that drove past me and I shot at.
Objection. I don't consent to her being called that name, or nor do I identify it. I'm hearing third party.
That's not a
Your
thing.
question
It's
Noted, it's overruled. The witness has
third
previously
party
identified him.
interveners aren't a thing in
Okay.
criminal
For the
cases.
record.
Let me ask your next question.
Does this video accurately depict the scene as you saw it that day?
Yes, it does.
Move exhibit 57 into evidence and request permission to publish.
Exhibit 57 is received by the court and permission to publish is granted.
This is a 19-second video. I'll wait for the bailiff to signal that the jury has it.
What's that whispering?
Before we hit play, I'd like you, if you can, to point out the Wisconsin house for us.
The Wisconsin House is this brown brick building here on the right that has the Golden Moments Gentleman Beer sign right here.
Thank you. We can clear that. And we'll watch the entirety of this clip with volume, please, at regular speed.
Lots of screams, 3 shots, and a
How many
high
gunshots
revving
did you hear in
engine.
that video?
3.
Is that consistent with your memory of the event?
Yes, it is.
Can we pull that back up at about the 10-second mark, please? Do you see yourself at the 10-second mark?
Yes, I do.
Can you circle yourself for us? You're the only person at this 10-second mark wearing.
He would be a
yellow
good
vest.
Scots Piper.
Correct.
Okay, we can clear that, please. Can we slow this down with no audio?
Yep, we
Slow it
see
down to about
the
50%, please.
officer in the middle of the
And play from there.
intersection. Brooks to the left, directly in front of him. Continuing down the Northwest Avenue.
And we can pause it. We've stopped at 16 seconds. Does that portion of the video accurately reflect what you did that day?
That is correct.
I'd like to show for the witness only, please, exhibit number 170.
Go ahead.
Do you recognize this photograph?
Yes, I do.
What does it show?
This shows the vehicle damage that I observed when I first saw the vehicle as it was coming towards me. This is the vehicle that was, again, driven the Christmas parade by Darrell Brooks.
Oh,
Objection.
keep using that name. Keep using it. I love that he's not playing Brooks's games.
The
For the
objection,
record.
it's on the record.
I love that he's not
Does
playing
this appear to be a
Brooks's games.
screenshot from the video we just watched, exhibit 57?
It does appear so.
And again, this is then an accurate depiction of how the vehicle looked that day.
That is correct.
I move exhibit 170 into evidence and ask to publish.
Objection. Relevancy.
The
Overruled.
condition of
Exhibit
the
170
vehicle is highly
Receive
relevant.
permission to publish is granted.
It's approaching
We'll remind
noon
the
in
jury once again
Wisconsin,
that,
and on the live,
comments
he's
made
still
by
going.
parties and lawyers are not evidence and should thus not be considered as such.
Now I'd like to show for the witness only exhibit number 169, please.
Go ahead.
Do you recognize this photograph?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
This is that same vehicle. It appears to be just moments after that first picture we just were shown.
Does this appear to be a screenshot from the video in exhibit 57?
Yes, it does.
Is this an accurate depiction of how the vehicle and the driver looked to you that day?
Yes.
Move exhibit 169 into evidence and ask to publish.
Objection, relevancy.
Exhibit
Objection.
169 is received. Permission to publish is granted.
Objection.
Noted. Overruled.
What's the counter now, Steve? Ah, right as I was
Show for the
asking.
witness only, please.
Hold on.
Oh,
Is
that's
that in the jury box? Okay, it was there. Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that earlier.
that's a lot of damage.
All right, so next exhibit, you may show to the witness.
Exhibit 58, please. We're going to play a few seconds of this, give you a chance to see if you recognize it, okay?
Okay.
Okay. We've played 7 seconds. Do you recognize this video?
Yes, I do.
What does it show?
It shows pretty much what the last video showed, just from a different point of view from that same intersection.
Is this an accurate video depicting the events as you saw them on November 21st?
Yes, it does.
Move exhibit 58 into evidence and ask to publish with the caveat about the comments on the right side of the screen, please.
Objection.
Exhibit 58 is received. Permission to publish is granted. The jury will disregard the comments that are on the right side of the
It's
exhibit.
possible.
Those are
He's
not to be considered as
he's
evidence.
on a roll.
This is a 15-second clip. We'll play it once at regular speed with audio, please.
That's it, Singapore Sling. Objection. It's devastating to my case.
We see the barricades at the end of that clip. Is that right?
That is correct.
And do you recall what those are made out of?
I believe they're made out of fiberglass or plastic.
And what we saw in that video, again, that's inaccurate. Does that match up with how you recall the incident?
That is correct.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, any questions for this witness, sir?
I do. You stated initially that you had heard some radio calls about
He's gonna get hung up
possible
on a
altercation
knife
at Frame
fight.
Park.
And
That is correct.
he didn't testify. He said that he
Do
didn't say
you
knife
recall-
fight though.
What the initial report of that was?
My recollection of that was that there was a call for service, is either a domestic or some sort of physical altercation along the riverfront in Frame Park, and that there was a male with a armed with a knife, and he was fleeing from the
He
area.
brought out the knife. Once again,
So it
there was no
reported
knife.
a possible knife involved, and there was a male running from.
But you
the
weren't
scene?
charged with
That's
a
correct.
knife.
And were you ever given any further information about the male with the knife that was running from the scene?
No,
Why would he be? He wasn't
Any
investigating that.
information that the male with a knife running from the scene was in a vehicle at any time?
He wasn't
No.
investigating that.
Do you know if any investigation was done looking into that supposed fight at the park?
He's not a detective.
yes.
And what did you learn?
I did not learn anything of it. I just know that squads were responding there to investigate it. I was not updated on their findings or what they had investigated. I just know that they were dispatched there. for that
Sovereign
investigation.
citizens love to say,
Do you recall
notice
if
to
there was
principal is notice to agent.
Ever a knife
That's not a
recovered
thing.
or
All
a
police
suspect
don't know
recovered in
everything
that
about every
supposed
investigation.
incident?
That he heard it on the radio. That's the extent of his knowledge.
Do you mean like how much later do I know? Like what I know
At
now?
any time, do you know if there was a suspect, I guess I would say apprehended or anything that was found with a knife, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, I do not know if the suspect from that incident, which was you, was located
When you
with
say
a knife.
you, what do you mean?
You,
Who
Darrell
you
Brooks. I know you were the suspect in that incident, and I know you were taken into custody approximately 30 to 40 minutes later. I do not know if you were armed when you were taken into custody.
Now let the record reflect that I do not identify by that name, nor do I know
Who
any
cares?
individual by that name. I am
Who
in third party.
cares?
The record's noted, although the jury will disregard the comments, they are
keep
not
saying-
evidence in this case. Next question, please.
At the time, you said, did you respond to that incident at the park?
No,
So how can you know who was involved with it if you didn't respond yourself?
because you stated at any time this investigation took a long time to complete. And from this investigation, we determined that you were the suspect in that investigation.
You determined that?
So,
I didn't.
Darlene,
No.
I had to
Okay.
look it up quickly. You mentioned AC/DC. I know they're a good Aussie band, but the Youngs were born in Scotland, so piping is appropriate for them. Brian Johnson, their lead singer, is from County
So
Durham.
basically,
That's where I did my
you're just
master's
going off
degree.
what you were told, because you just stated that you didn't make any determination, nor did you
So he's a
investigate.
good
Would that be fair to say?
Northeasterner.
That's correct.
You also gave, and when you were asked the question of,
I would like to see a bear
were
playing
there any other
bagpipes.
officers
That could
along
be
the
amusing,
route,
Steve.
or I don't know if that was referring to side exits or anything of that nature, but I recall you stating that you gave an estimate, stating that you weren't sure where other officers were stationed, but you gave an approximate estimate. Would
Half
that be
his
fair to say?
questions are word
That is
salad.
correct.
And would that have been officers stationed at different cross streets?
That is correct.
Do you know if those
I'm not
cross streets were
criticizing.
barricaded?
I know that there
My
were
keyboard
barricades
sometimes
across numerous
doesn't get everything
intersections
I type.
for the
It's always
parade
the
route. That's how
computer's
we
fault,
shut
not
down
mine.
traffic in the downtown area for parades.
But I still think
So
it would
pretty
be
much
funny
every
to see a
side
bear
street is
playing
barricaded.
bagpipes.
I can't give you specifics on what streets were barricaded, but yes, the vast majority of streets are barricaded to stop traffic for the parade route.
And if they're not barricaded, they'd have a
Can you
police
pull up Exhibit
officer.
1 and publish?
The state would please do that.
Exhibit 1 being the map showing that the streets were barricaded and where the officers were. Of course, what kind of bear would we want to see play play bagpipes? Would it be best a polar bear, grizzly,
Yes.
panda?
Can you see? Well, I know you can. Can you see the red lines on this map that we're looking at?
Yes,
And what do those red lines constitute?
barricades.
So would it be fair
I'm
to say
okay with
that
him hurting his case grip.
there's a red line at every cross street that we can see on this map?
What's your point?
That would
He
be-
already testified you drove through a
You mean along the
barrier.
parade route
So-
or
Start
the
along,
entire-
You
along
drove
the
through
parade
a
route, starting
barricade.
at East
So
Main
how is
Street,
the
there's
presence of other barricades
a red mark.
excusing you
Oh, I
from
didn't mean to put
killing
that
6 people?
arrow. Can we clear that? I was trying to put like a little dot. Starting there, there's a red line there. There's 2 at Buckley.
Hold on, and just so the record is clear, he
So
put
you
a
want a polar
mark
piper.
at near the intersection of East Main and White Rock Avenue. So from that location to where?
There's 2 at Buckley.
Well, hold on, you're testifying now, you gotta ask a
And then a
question.
black bear
So Joe will
basis
disregard that
Are
statement.
there 2 at Buckley?
Yes,
and a grizzly on guitar.
Is there one at Martin
That's quite a
Street?
band.
yes,
Is there one at is there 2 at Barstow Street?
yes,
1 at Gaspar,
Yes.
It's the barricade's fault because
1
he
at
just
North
he
Grand,
couldn't
and 1 at West
turn off the
Broadway.
parade route. I mean, he could have hit the brakes at any time,
there's 2 at West Broadway.
but he couldn't turn
Well,
off the parade
this
route.
one is on the
He had to go all the way to
closer
the end
to
and then
where it
drive
says
through a
North Grand.
barricade.
and
Travel
one is
through a
on the other
barricade.
side of the star right there. This is what I'm referring to.
Okay, yes, there are
Can
2
you
right
clear
there.
that?
Please clear that, Madam Clerk.
So there's 2 there. There's 2 at Clinton Street. Can you see
I
those
realize
2?
they're not
Yes.
bears, but what about?
There's 1 at Maple
I mean,
Avenue.
they're
Can you
called
see that
drop
one?
bears. What
Yes.
about koalas?
There's
What
one at-
would they play?
Right here at West Avenue. Can you see that?
Correct.
Or
Yes.
or are they just
So it would be fair
for?
to say that there's pretty much barriers at every single street
Oh,
from
what's the type of
White Rock
music?
and East Main to
Wait for the drop. So you wait
West
wait
Main
for the
and
koala.
West-
Wait for the drop bear.
Northwest Avenue.
Yes,
Barricades at all those streets.
yes,
Do you know if there were officers stationed at those barricades?
yes. This map shows, it appears where everyone was for their assignments that day.
So would it be fair to say if someone wanted to exit the parade route, they would essentially be blocked in by the officers and barricades?
No,
There are barricades at these streets.
You drove
see
through
that
a
that's fair to
barricade.
say.
How are you blocked
No.
in by a barricade?
So it's not fair to say that there's barricades at these streets?
He said there's barricades.
it's fair
You're
to
not
say that
blocked
there's
in.
barricades at
You
the
could have
streets.
you could
So-
have exited.
Essentially, if someone was leaving the parade route, can they just go right through the barricades?
You did. You did at the end.
Based on the previous videos that we just were shown,
Not based on the previous video.
He's
If
testifying
someone
what
was leaving
he's
the
testifying what you
parade
did
route,
to
can
leave
they
the
just
parade.
go down these streets that are barricaded?
You did.
Can they just drive right out of there?
yes, the video
How
showed
when
that.
how when it's barricaded?
By barreling through.
As the video were shown
We're not
earlier,
referring
the
to the
vehicle
videos. We're
went
not
right through the
referring to the
Hold on,
barricade.
you
He's
asked the
answering
question,
your
you have to
question.
let him answer that. He's giving you the reason. You asked him how. He's explaining it.
There's plenty of ways to get off the parade route. You can stop after
Exactly.
being given lawful
You
orders
could
by
have
officers,
stopped.
and they could have directed
You
you
could have
off
hit the
the
brakes.
parade route in a safe manner. You could have stopped the vehicle at any point, or you could have driven through
I
plastic
love this
barricades like you did
witness.
at Northwest Avenue, where I was located.
Uh,
So yes, you can drive through
That
plastic
was such a
barricades.
good answer.
You refer to as who?
Darrell Brooks, you, the person that's talking.
Oh,
You. And how did you come to the conclusion of that name, as you stated that you couldn't see past
they jump.
this
So they
building
joined
here,
fish.
which you
Koalas
said
stoned
is
on
the
eucalyptus,
Wisconsin house? Would that be fair
pour
to
with
say?
fish.
Well, that's a compound question, so you need to rephrase that, sir.
You state clear this right there.
Please?
Oh,
Please?
manners.
Can you clear this circle and arrow right here? That's
Please.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
You stated that from where you were positioned at, you couldn't see around that building. Did you say that?
Yes, I did.
So it would be fair to say you also couldn't see what was happening along the parade route on Main Street. Would that be fair to say?
That is correct.
So it would be also fair to say that everything that you knew up until that point came over the radio and you didn't have firsthand knowledge.
That is correct.
It came over the radio, but then he saw you speeding. He described you as a red flash. It's easy enough to put two and two together. And
You also
the
stated
jury
that
takes
after a few
all the
minutes of hearing
testimony.
these,
They've
I guess,
testified
radio
he
reports,
ran through the
you
entire
said
parade
after
route.
a few minutes, you noticed something was going on. Do you recall
A few
from
minutes. 30 miles an hour estimate.
the reports
Just under a
how
mile.
long
That's
this vehicle
just under
traveled along
2
the
minutes
parade
it
route?
took him to run through the entire
Estimate
parade.
of the time that it traveled down the parade route?
I do not know
By
how
the
long
speed he
the
traveled
vehicles on
over
the
that
parade route
distance,
for.
it's
If I
roughly
had to
2
estimate,
minutes.
I would estimate approximately 1 to 2.5 minutes.
Exactly.
2 minutes, maybe.
Exactly.
Would you say it's fair to say that that's relatively a short amount of time?
I would agree with that.
See how
So
I
what do
did
you mean
quick
by
math
after a few minutes, you noticed something was
using
going
the
on?
evidence we've already
Because
heard?
after a
and
few
it's
minutes, what I
exactly
meant by
what he
that
said.
was the initial call for service at the boat launch, or for that domestic fight in Frame Park. From that time frame, from when squads were responding to there to the time that I had shots fired, that is what I mean by a few minutes. So you have to take into account the time for squads responding to that call.
I don't
He's
know.
such a good witness.
Police protocol, so. just
Shut
asking.
up. Shut up.
Brooks,
Don't
please
give
ask your-
commentary.
I'm getting to it.
No, right, but
You're giving commentary. It's inappropriate.
I have to advise the jury to disregard the comment because it's not testimony.
He is
And
such a
you
good witness.
Stated that. Well, let's go to.
This cross-examination is brutal for Brooks. It's
Yeah, go ahead. You don't need, do you need that? We're gonna turn it off.
Yeah, you can take that down. Sorry about that.
I mean, this cross-examination has been better for the prosecution than their direct was.
I believe it's Exhibit 57.
You believe it's Exhibit 57.
When you pull up Exhibit 57. Can we bring it to about 16 or 17 seconds?
What do you want, 16 or 17? Such a loud keyboard.
Can you bring it back a little bit? One more second, if you could.
Exactly. I mean, he's
You
answering the questions, but in answering
fair
them,
to
he's
say
being
that those
so
are
complete.
barricades
He's
that
just
are
bringing
in
in
the street there?
such damning evidence.
Correct.
Any idea why they were not standing up?
How would he know why people
Yes, I
aren't
do.
standing up?
What would be the reason?
I mean, people sit
It
at
was very
parades.
windy that day, so when they were standing up how they normally are, they kept on blowing across the street.
Oh,
so we tilted them on their sides so they wouldn't
Okay.
get blown across the road, and they would still stay up there and
I
block
didn't
traffic.
hear him.
They would be able to block traffic by laying down?
Yes, they serve
It's
the
an
same purpose.
obstruction in the
But
road.
they would be able to block
Anyone
traffic
with
by
half a brain
laying down.
sees the barricade across the road, even
I
laying
guess I don't
down.
understand what your question
They stop.
is here.
Would it be much more easier to see them if they were facing upright than laying down?
Anyone with half
I
a
think
brain
the height
and
difference
vision
between them
good
laying
enough to
down
drive
and
would
being
stop.
upright is probably quite minuscule, because as you
But
see,
once
the
again,
legs that
you
are now
drove
up in the
straight
air
down
are
Main
approximately
Street.
the same
You
height
didn't
as what the bar
attempt to
would
turn
be
off until
if they were
Main Street
standing
ended.
standing up how they normally are.
And you come to that conclusion how?
Because he
Based
has
on my
more than
training
half a
experience,
brain.
after deploying barricades on numerous events and working several parades in my work history.
I mean, you can
So
see
you would
it's
estimate
blocking the
a
lane.
barricade facing upright
I'd
and the
stop
barricade
because I
laying
wouldn't
down
want to
would be
run
the
it
same
over
height.
and damage my car.
Approximately.
Once again, theory of the defense. He's so dense, a black hole formed and
Can you
sucked
bring it back
all the
to
victims
10
into his car.
10 seconds.
Exactly, darling. He has eyes. He has a brain.
From what we're looking at right now, it's a little hard to see.
They're on their sides, but with
You can
the
see the vehicle, you can
leg
see
up,
where you identified you were, but it's a little bit hard to see
still a
everything. Would that be fair to say?
barricade.
Because of the person with the black coat and the gray
Yeah, because
hoodie and Nike
you
black
asked them
pants
to stop the
directly in the middle
video.
of the screen.
You asked them to stop the video specifically here, so
That's
it would be
correct. It's a
difficult
little
to
hard to
see.
see from this.
Where it is paused now.
From this
yes.
frame right
Yes,
now,
yeah, that's what I meant.
they
Where
showed
it's
the whole
paused now.
video though,
Yes.
and these people weren't in frame the whole time.
It
You
looks
could see
like
the
you're-
barricades.
This would be you right here. Would that be fair to say?
That is correct.
It looks like you're
He's done as effective a job
firing
killing
your
his
weapon
case
right
as he
there. Would
killed
that be
6
fair to say?
people.
I do not know if I have
And I'm
pulled
going
the
to
trigger
guess
yet or not. I don't
his
believe I
case in
have.
chief will do
I
even
you were
more
ready
damage.
to fire at that point.
That's correct.
Do
But
you
he
recall
waited
what
until you
were
turned
aiming
so
for?
that he wasn't aiming
Yes,
in
I
the
do.
direction of the crowd.
Stay for the
Crossfire
record
is
and for the
a
jury.
terrible thing. Firing
You,
into a
Darrell
crowd
Brooks.
is a terrible thing.
Again, you make reference to the you.
It was not a
And the name.
female sheep.
How did you come to that? Seeing as how you just testified to that you couldn't see anything before what you call the Wisconsin house. Would that be fair to say that you testified to
He
that?
testified that he could
That's correct.
identify you.
And
You passed very close to him.
you also stated that
He didn't
you
identify
learned
you
additional
before
information
Wisconsin
later on.
House.
Would that be fair to say?
You passed
That's correct.
right by him.
So how could you determine at this time right now where we're looking at that you knew the suspect's name and the driver? Because you keep referring to you and then you saying the name. How did you have that information at this point?
He didn't
That's
know your
Paul right
name
here
at the
that we're
time,
looking at.
but he
I didn't say at that
identified
time I
you.
knew your name.
He
referred to the
identified
name.
you.
Did you not?
That's correct.
Your name
So,
is
how
irrelevant.
are
You
you
are the person standing
able
in
to
court
obtain
defending
the
yourself.
information
You
about
are the person he
The
saw
name.
driving.
I did not know
The
your
name
name
is
at the time I shot
irrelevant.
at you.
The name is only
Who's the
relevant
you were
to
referring
the
to?
charges
Darrell
because
Brooks.
Again, you say a name.
it's
that you had to answer. How you
irrelevant.
came to that information? Were you told this?
It is irrelevant. It has no
Yes.
bearing on what he
By whom?
witnessed on the scene.
I do not know who told me. Ultimately, I just know that throughout the course of the investigation, your name, you were arrested within 30 or 40 minutes, and you were identified as Darrell Brooks, who was the suspect in this incident.
So you either had to hear that name from either a
Who
report
cares?
that you
He
heard or
saw
someone told you.
you.
How did you come to the conclusion of the name?
He saw
I'm
you.
assuming someone at the police department told me your name.
He's so hung up on
And you
it,
don't
but
recall
it's
who that was,
No.
even though you can cite the name so clearly and identify it and keep stressing it and stressing it, and you don't recall how you learned the information of the name.
That is correct.
I don't. This is so
So is it fair to
stupid.
say that you're just using the name
His
based off what
identity
you're
is
told
not in
and
question.
not what you were aware of?
That's it. A hungry jury's an angry jury.
What are you asking me?
Is it fair to say that you're identifying this name?
He's
Based
not
off of what
identifying
you
the
told
name.
me,
He's
not what you
identifying you.
I'm saying the name based on the fact that you were arrested for this incident. You were identified during this incident. And because of that investigation, that is how we know your name.
Would it be fair to say, and obviously you said you've been in law enforcement for 7.5 years, correct?
Correct.
He said he's been with Waukesha
I'm
Police
sure you've
Department
done a lot
for
of
7.5
investigations in that
years.
7.5 years. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
So you do understand that during a police investigation,
Exactly. His name
suspect
is irrelevant.
it's innocent until
He
proven
wasn't
guilty. Is that fair to
arrested.
say?
That's correct.
Like yesterday,
And so with
I think
that
it was
knowledge-
yesterday on Law Talk with Mike. There was the lady who was arrested
Why are
for
you
a
so
crime she didn't
adamant
commit
about
because she has
the
the
name
same
of the
name
suspect that
as
you just
the
testified to
person
not being aware of at the
who the
time?
police left at the
That you
hospital,
testified to,
but
in
she
fact,
doesn't
being
have the same
told.
tattoos. That's not the case here. They didn't arrest someone
Sorry, I'm
based on the
confused by your
name
question. Say it
Darrell
again.
Brooks. They arrested someone
I think
based
it was
on
clear,
his
but I'll say it again.
description.
Thank you.
That's it.
Well, I'll say it this way. You testified to not being aware of the suspect's name at the time.
Who cares?
You also testified to being told of the name, correct?
That is irrelevant.
Correct. I don't know how I came about your name. I would assume it was through the investigation at the police department.
I mean, at
And were
this
you,
point, it's
in
all
fact, part of that
asked and
investigation?
answered. It's
No, I was
cumulative.
not.
Stop.
So it would be fair to say that
In
by
addition
you
to
using
being
the
irrelevant.
name, you would not be short. How can you be short?
I'll object.
And
Wow.
it's
Argument.
argumentative.
It's been asked, it's been answered.
It's
It's
irrelevant.
argumentative. The objection is sustained. Please ask your next question.
And besides, other than identifying him, it's not evidence he would have seen on scene.
When asked about what you were aiming at when you fired, you didn't give a definitive answer. You
Yes,
was
he
aiming
did.
for
He
the
was
driver.
aiming at you. He said he was
I
aiming
felt like I gave a
at
pretty
you.
definitive answer. My
You-
answer was you,
You
Darrell
were aiming
Brooks.
for the driver.
Yes. It's pretty definitive.
Okay,
identified
don't
the
argue.
person.
So
shooting at.
what
Don't argue, Mr.
what
Witness.
part of the driver's body could you see?
He knows the
When the vehicle
location
passed you?
of the driver's seat from behind the vehicle.
When the vehicle was approaching me, I could see the silhouette of his
That's
face
it.
and upper portion
They're
of his
letting him
body.
piss off the
Can
jury
you describe what you mean by
and get
silhouette?
bogged down in a name.
The upper portion of a person's body, I would say.
Can you
from
define a
maybe
silhouette?
chest, shoulders, and head and face.
Oh,
You said silhouette though.
that's what he
what is a
said.
silhouette?
The outer portions of what would be like your shoulder down, your arms.
Does he
to
not
your chest.
understand
The
what a
would be the
silhouette
outer
is?
Portion of it.
That would be the upper half, not the silhouette. What do you mean by silhouette?
The objection is sustained.
It is
Mr. Brooks
argumentative.
is not asking a question. It was argumentative. The jury can certainly
Would it be
decide.
The
what that
jury
means.
can
Please
decide
answer
what
the
a
question.
silhouette
Would it
is.
be fair to say that that would be equivalent to a profile?
That's what a silhouette is.
What do you mean by a profile?
A profile would be sort of like a side angle view.
No, he didn't say
Would it be
he's.
fair to say that
He was firing from
a silhouette would be
behind.
more of an outline?
No,
that would be
silhouette
kind of similar to a profile?
isn't. No. A rear view
I don't know
versus a
exactly what
side
you're
view
asking
versus
here,
a
but I
front
can
view.
tell you
A
when the vehicle
silhouette
was driving
can
towards
be
me,
from
I
any
could see
angle.
your face.
Silhouette
and then
has
as the
nothing to
vehicle
do with
drove
angle.
to my right, yes, then I saw
Silhouette
the
is
side of your
outline.
face.
It's the
And
shadow
so then,
shown
yes,
through the
as
window.
a vehicle passes you, you see different portions of the driver, I guess you could say.
And so you aim towards what you can see.
I mean, I wouldn't say
Correct.
90611
So that
yet.
would be the
I'd say
upper
it's cumulative,
part, as you say. You said the shoulder. You made
but it's
I
ridiculous.
think it was your left hand pointing to your right shoulder, shoulder and up.
He was
silhouette, as you
aiming
say.
at your
That is what
body.
I could
That he
see
could
when you were
see
driving at
in
me.
the
You asked me
window
what I
from
could
the
see of you,
rear
and that is
of
what I
the
could see of you in the
vehicle.
vehicle when you were approaching me.
The question now, though, is that what you aim for?
Yes.
I was aiming at you. Yes.
At what you can see.
I was aiming at you in the driver's seat. Yes.
I mean, even
Shoulder,
without
as
it,
you
he
pointed
knows
to, and
where
up,
the driver's
correct? Would that be
seat
fair to
is
say?
in the vehicle.
Yes.
Even if he's aiming lower than the rear window,
Firing a weapon of your caliber,
he can.
would any
If
of
it
those
goes
shots be
through
kill
the
shots?
tailgate, he knows where it's going.
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that
No, it's not fair to say.
firing a kill shot at anyone would terrify him?
Who cares? It was a justified shooting. It was a good shooting.
I'm sure being shot at is terrifying. Yes, it is.
I mean, did you even realize you were being shot at?
So it'd be fair to say you were shooting to kill.
No.
He was shooting to stop. He was shooting to neutralize a threat.
So would it be fair to say that, judging based on what you see, that you testified to, a silhouette from about here that you pointed to, from the shoulder, using your left hand, you pointed at your right shoulder from here up, and you just acknowledged that any one of those three shots could have been kill shots.
They could have been. He was
Would it be
shooting
fair
to
to say that you were
neutralize a
aiming to kill?
threat. Whether it
Shooting to
kills
kill, rather,
or
not aiming to kill,
stops
shooting to
is
kill.
irrelevant.
No.
So in your estimate, what do you think you would have hit if you just testified to saying that you aimed at the driver? What were you estimating to hit?
He was
Well,
trying
my
to hit
intention
you.
was to shoot you in the upper portion of the body. However, my intention was not to kill you. My intention was to stop the threat that you were
Exactly.
posing to everyone in the downtown
Threat
area at the Christmas parade.
neutralization. You
Keep
still
referring to
posed
you,
an active
but
threat,
that's not a
and
question,
he
sir.
tried to stop you.
By your estimation, acknowledging that those were kill shots,
The problem is, shooting
if
into a
you
vehicle,
connected
you never
with
know
any of
how
those shots,
a bullet
is
is
it
going to
possible
be
the driver could have been
deflected.
killed?
What its
Yes.
trajectory will be once it goes into the tailgate or into the window.
And would it be fair to say that that's deadly force?
Yes.
And it was authorized. Deadly force was
Do
clearly
you think it would have been
authorized.
possible to aim at the tire of the vehicle?
No.
Why not? With shooting the tire of the vehicle not stop
I
the
mean,
vehicle?
what
No, it
shouldn't
would
you have
not have.
shot the transmission to
So a blown
disengage, to
tire
put it
would,
into neutral?
to your estimation, a blown tire would not stop a vehicle from moving?
No, it will not.
It
So
can,
it'll just keep
but
going.
it
It won't
doesn't
even slow down?
necessarily.
That is correct. I'm trained to stop the threat.
Plus,
You are the threat.
shooting at
The
a
vehicle's not
tire,
the vehicle
you're
is the
not
weapon in
guaranteed
which
to
you
blow the
used.
tire.
So
It's
that is
hard.
why I
The
shot at
tire's
you.
There's
rotating.
you again.
It can deflect. It's not a sure thing. Especially you're shooting from behind. The tire is rotating this
Could
way.
you have, well,
It
you
hits.
testify
It
that you're
deflects
trying
in
to
any
stop the threat.
direction. If it hits the tread, it can
And
deflect.
so
It's not a
would
sure
it be fair to
thing.
say that training
And
constitutes
yes, Steve, it's a smaller
shooting kill
target.
shots?
His profile
Well,
is a
we are
bigger target.
trained in deadly force, and when we are presented with a deadly force incident, yes, we have to sometimes make that difficult decision and use deadly force.
Have you ever used deadly force before that incident?
Objection.
Grounds.
It's irrelevant.
Sustained.
He thinks it's Law and Order
You said you're
mixed
trained
with
to use
James
deadly force.
Bond.
So would it be fair to say that anytime you shoot your weapon, it would be deadly force?
No, because he mostly fires it at the range.
When it is directed at a person, yes.
Were you injured in any way during the incident?
No, I was not.
And at the time, being where you were positioned at,
Positioned.
you've already testified that you could not see what was going on during the parade route from your position.
Exactly. Center mass. Easiest
So-
shot.
Why did you feel the need at the time, not knowing the full extent of what was happening?
Because
to
he
use
could
deadly
see what
force?
was still going on. You were still
Because
driving
as
in
I
the direction
previously
of
stated,
people.
based on the fact that the radio traffic for people screaming for ambulances, and as different officers were getting on the radio, and it was progressively moving further
He
and further
could tell
westbound
from the
towards
radio
me on the
traffic
parade route,
that
that,
you had already
and then
caused things
Officer
to
saying someone
authorize
was
this,
hit,
and
which
you
I
were
initially
still a
thought was a
threat.
physical altercation, someone being hit, but it was a vehicle versus person hit. Based on that, the vehicle speed at which, yes, I could not see it down Main Street. I only had a couple seconds at most until the vehicle from where I
He's
saw it
such
was
a clown.
to
And,
my location.
and once again,
So based on the amount of vehicle damage,
our
I knew
ginger
the
bearded
vehicle had
Piper
been
friend
striking pedestrians
is such a
in the
good
roadway.
witness.
And because of that, that's a deadly force incident. So that is why I deployed deadly force.
So you said you knew what the vehicle had. You knew. You said it multiple times. You knew.
Yes,
Yes.
he
How could
knew.
you know if you could not see around the position that you were?
It's
were
the
positioned?
totality
How
of the
do you know that?
circumstances.
Because based on the
He
speed
could-
of a vehicle
he could
on a
tell
closed
you were
roadway
still a
during
threat.
the parade, and
He identified
and
you as a
people
threat.
running out of the way so they did not get run over.
And so you
right
were,
in front
it
of
was
me.
authorized.
Between all
because
of those
you
things,
were still
I
a threat.
knew what had just happened.
He didn't have to
and that is
know
why I had to take
exactly
action.
what had happened. He knew you
And knew
had
based
injured
on
people.
The radio reports.
I would say everything that I had just previously described,
It's the
all
totality.
that encompassing, yes, that led up to my decision making into yes, now I knew what had happened. I did not know previous to that what was going on. I did not know there was a vehicle on the roadway until I saw it. And it all made sense
And
when I put everything together.
when you saw it, by the time you saw it, as you said, it was a couple of seconds. So at that point,
See, in
did
this
you
line of
observe
questioning,
the vehicle
the
strike
question would
anyone?
be, were you
From the time that
disciplined
you saw
for
it?
your use of
No,
force?
I did not. I was focused on the vehicle.
No,
so I just
because it was
remembered that there
authorized. It
were
was deemed a
ton
good
of little
shot.
kids and adults.
Because I
adults on
guarantee
the
they
sidewalks.
investigated
I
whether
knew
it was
a lot of
an
children
authorized
right
use
in
of
the roadway
force.
right there. And I remember seeing people like running, but I wasn't really paying attention to the people. I was just focused on the vehicle.
So
That
you-
was really all I was focused on at that point.
You weren't paying attention to any other people.
He was paying
You-
attention to you. You were the
That
threat
was
at
not
the
my primary
time.
focus.
But you do recall that no one was struck from the time you saw the vehicle.
Yes, after looking back, after videos later on throughout the
No,
investigation.
no. From what you saw,
Let
which
him
you
answer.
observed with your own eyes.
Let him answer.
No, I can't recall ever seeing someone hit right in front of me. No, I do not recall that.
Does the exhibit videos that you saw here today, does anyone get struck in those videos that you saw today?
No, not that I saw today.
And you still made the decision to shoot to kill.
That's correct. Actually, correction, I shot to stop the threat. If ultimately you would have been killed from that, that is a possible outcome.
But you did testify that there were kill shots, did you not?
Sustained. It's also been asked and answered in multiple ways. at
Do
this
you
point.
recall what your shots hit? If anything?
Yes, later on throughout the investigation when I
No,
gave
at
my...
the time. At the time.
Let him answer.
Not later on. At the time where you
Let
fired
him
the shots.
answer.
Mr. Brooks, you asked a question. He was attempting to answer it. So you have to
I was
let,
trying to give him clarification on what I
but
meant.
you have
You
to
have to
let
let
him
him
answer
answer.
the question that you asked.
Then
and if
you can
feel
ask
the
a
need for follow-up, then
clarifying
you can do that,
question.
or ask a very specific question. But I'm allowing him to answer. He was interrupted. Go ahead.
I believe it was 3 days after the incident. That is when I gave my voluntary statement to Detective Kirby and Detective Casey. And upon completion of that statement, I asked them if they could share any information with me. And during that conversation, I was shown a picture of the vehicle and where my round struck the vehicle.
You stated you asked them for any additional information that they could give you. So it would be fair to say at that time, you still didn't have a lot of information. Would it be fair to say that?
That is correct. I didn't know where my rounds had struck previous to that.
We're about 5 minutes behind
Did
Empty
you
Woods,
ask them
and
in
I don't think we're at
the
lunch yet.
statement that you just testified to, saying you asked them if they could provide you with any more information? Did you at any time specifically ask about the shots that you fired when you
Looking
requested
at the
if
live,
they could give you any more
they're not at
information?
lunch yet.
I do not remember the specifics of what questions I asked in pertaining to what information they could share with me. I think it was sort of a generalization of what can you share with me.
That's
at
what
this
I was
point.
just looking at, Steve, on my phone.
So would it be fair to say at that point
Friend posted it on Facebook, and I looked it up
there's
to
a
check.
possibility that you did not know the name of the suspect, nor
I don't think there
Did
could have
you
been a better actor for Hagrid.
know if you had shot the suspect at that time?
At that time, I knew I had not shot the suspect because the night
Because
of the
you kept
incident when he was
driving.
taken into custody, it was relayed to me that he was uninjured and he had not been struck by
If
any
you
of
had
my rounds that were fired.
Well,
You do recall
he's
just
still crossing,
testifying
and his
to
cross has done more damage than the direct did.
requesting more information from the detectives when you had the conversation with them. Is that
What's
correct?
wrong with
That is
wanting
correct.
to know how accurate he was, where he
And
missed?
You said that you don't recall asking them about if your bullet struck someone. Is that correct?
He wouldn't ask because
That is correct. So
he would
the
have
day
known.
I met with Detective Kirby and Detective Casey, that was, I believe,
They
2 or 3
definitely
days
would have
after the incident.
told him, you hit him, you're
Mr.
on
Brooks was taken
paid
into custody the night
leave
of.
while
So
we
when I
investigate.
was still
It would have been a
at the
quick
police department,
investigation.
I knew that he had not been struck. So,
But
I
if
think
he
we're
hit, he
dealing
would have
with
been on paid leave for a
the
short
questions I
time.
asked of the detectives. That
Because
was
they
not the same night of the
they
incident.
always investigate police shootings, even the
I'm sure
justified
you
ones.
asked. You didn't say it, but You said you don't recall the information that you requested. Would that be fair to say?
No, I don't recall specifically
Singapore,
what questions I
Singapore
asked that
sling,
they.
it would not be
I
fair
don't
to
know
say that
specifically
you're
what questions
guilty.
I asked of them
To say
a
Brooks
year
is
ago.
guilty,
I
yes,
know
but
it was a generalized.
I
What
don't think you're
information can you
guilty.
share with me at this point? Because I didn't know what was going on in the investigation or what leads they had, or essentially what had happened after my involvement, I guess.
It's almost
So
like
you
he
didn't-
wasn't a
it would be fair to
detective.
say there
He
was
was
a
a
lot of
patrol
information
cop.
that you still was unsure about at that point. Would that be fair to say?
That's correct.
Because he didn't
So if there
investigate.
was
He's
information
testifying
that you're
about
acknowledging
what
that
he witnessed,
you had no
not
knowledge of,
what
which
he
would be
investigated.
essentially the
He's
reason
not
why
an
you would ask if they can
investigator.
volunteer more information to you, then how would there be any way of knowing if you struck the suspect?
Objection.
Grounds.
It's
Sustained. It's a compound, confusing question.
and it's argumentative. And besides, what you
I also think it mischaracterizes the testimony.
he was not a detective on this case. He was a witness as a patrol cop working the parade. He doesn't do follow-up. The detectives take his statement. The detectives approach him to ask questions. He doesn't need to go and
And
say,
you said you
hey,
made a
what do you think about this?
statement during your testimony that you had learned that the suspect was not injured. Do you recall you learned that information from?
I believe when I was back at the police department after the incident, so after using deadly force, you're ultimately removed from the scene.
Like I said,
When I was at the
like I
police
said,
department, I was with a
you'll be
support
placed
officer
on
and another detective.
paid leave
And at that point,
until you're cleared.
I was
In
still
this case,
answering
it would be
questions
very
for
fast.
investigating officers for what I saw,
Very
what I knew,
fast.
what I saw in the vehicle. And I believe Detective Stern was at our substation with Darrell Brooks after taking him into custody. And I was shown a photo at that point. And I know I had asked if he sustained any injuries or if anyone else had sustained any injuries from my
Imagine
use of force.
that,
And at that
being
point, I was
worried
not
about
told that anyone had been struck by my
civilians
gunfire.
in his crossfire.
So you
And
just said you asked if the suspect or if anyone else was struck by the gunfire.
That's correct.
there were people around. He was
So you
concerned.
weren't sure?
He said that's the reason
At
he
that point?
waited and fired from
Weren't sure.
behind
I
instead
I
of
was not certain at
when
that
you
point.
were
It was-
oncoming when it would have been the
I can't
easiest
describe it any more
shot.
than it was just pure chaos. And at that point, I did not know if anyone else was injured from my rounds or up until I was confirmed that
Imagine.
you were not injured.
Our ginger friend has a
At that
heart,
point, no,
unlike
I did not
Brooks.
know if anyone was hurt until I was told that.
So would it be fair to say that, and as you just stated, you were unsure if the suspect or anyone else was injured?
Asked and
Would it
answered.
be fair to say that there was a possibility because you did not know for certain?
Objection.
Grounds
Sustained.
for the sustained, Your Honor.
Asked and
Asked and
answered.
answered.
Next question.
He's such a good witness. And the thing is, he's been
After the
excluded.
vehicle
He
passed
hasn't
you, did
seen
you
any
observe it
testimony
striking
other
him?
than his.
I did not observe it strike anyone after it passed me.
Asked and answered.
Do you recall who you, well, I think you did. I think you said you gave your report to Officer Kirby. Is that correct?
Detective Kirby, yes.
I'm sorry,
Because detectives investigate. Patrol officers, after the fact,
Do you recall telling
aren't
Detective
conducting
Kirby
ongoing
that you
investigations.
were unaware of a vehicle on the parade route?
And it's still going
and
live.
You were unaware of people being injured?
Yes, I previously stated that.
Still going live. The jury, a hungry jury is an angry jury. An angry jury convicts. I haven't made the South Park joke yet, Static. He is, I don't know if you have it open on the screen. He is more of a daywalker than a full ginger.
Were you able to make out a license plates when it from the
License
vehicle when he
plates.
passed you?
License plates.
I later learned that I must have, but I do not recall that.
I mean, it's almost like he's focusing on your
So from
silhouette
what you
instead of the license
recall
plate.
at the time that the vehicle was passing, you don't recall getting the license plate.
At this time, I do not recall the license plate, but after
Full
I
gingers,
shot
yeah.
the vehicle,
Daywalkers,
I then
no.
responded up Main Street.
My
and started
brother-in-law's a
triaging victims.
daywalker, and
after doing that, I met with officers.
I've survived so
and
far.
Because I couldn't get on the radio and give out as much information as I wanted to. So when I spoke with other officers, that's when I explained to them that I was the one that had shot. It was not a suspect shooting, it was me. And that the vehicle in question was a red Ford Escape. And I believe I was talking to Detective Casey, Specialist Moss, and I believe there might have been another officer there as well. And I must have provided a license plate to Detective Casey during that debrief on scene. I did not know about that until about 2 days later when I gave my statement to Detective Kirby and Detective Casey, because that is when I was informed by Detective Casey that I had actually provided him a correct license plate, but I don't remember that.
And it's not like the license plate is the identifying factor here. It's so far from being of any
reason why you didn't
consequence
mention the license
that
plate
it's
in your report?
laughable.
Because like I stated, I don't remember it.
It's 11 months ago. He put a lot of information in his statement, in his report.
So it'd be fair to say if you don't remember it, then it's a possibility that you didn't get the license plate number.
Argumentative. It's 11 months ago.
I would say that if Detective Casey is telling me that I told him on scene during a traumatic incident that I provided him the license plate of the vehicle, I'd have to believe that Detective Casey is correct. There's many things that you do not remember during a traumatic incident.
Our ginger friend,
because your brain prevents you from remembering.
Had his adrenaline spike. Detective Casey, when he took his statement, probably
so you would describe
wasn't
it as
as high on
adrenaline.
adrenaline.
You do recall using deadly force and recalling what you was aiming for, but not.
That's the important issue for him.
Like
that is correct.
Would it be fair to say that?
Is this guy serious?
Because you describe it as a traumatic event, that there was a lot of things that you probably don't recall about the incident?
I would agree with that. I would think that there's a lot of things.
He remembers the important parts.
When I started going up West Main Street and started seeing the absolute destruction, I know there's things that I did and saw that I don't really remember.
And he doesn't want to.
I don't really want to remember.
Will one of those possibly be the suspect that you keep naming?
No.
When he walked on Main Street, you weren't on Main Street. It's the dead bodies you left in your wake. The injuries.
And how did you come to the knowledge of the make and model of the vehicle?
He saw it
on the exhibit that
He saw you
shown,
drive by.
you only had interaction with it for a few seconds. How were you able to make out the make and the model of the vehicle?
He has eyes and a brain.
Because that vehicle model has been out for quite some time, and I'm halfway decent with vehicles. And
Ford
I
Escapes
barely recognize that it was a
aren't particularly
Ford
good
Escape.
looking,
So you've
but
seen
they're
any
easy
Ford
to
Escapes?
identify.
yes.
They're so common.
And you said the model has been out for some time, so
It's been
What do you
out
mean
over
by
a
that? Do you mean
decade.
It's
It's an older
2022
model,
now, and that Ford model was approximately
15 years old.
a 2008-ish to maybe a 2011, 2010-ish. So yeah, they've been out for over a decade.
and how did you come to that knowledge of the estimate of
Because
the
he
years
knows
that the model could have
cars.
been?
He said
That-
he's
would you agree
familiar
that that's
with
pretty
cars.
difficult to know just off the bat? Would
No,
that be fair to say?
no,
So it would be pretty easy to tell the make and model and year of a vehicle just by looking at it.
Generally,
that is correct.
So it'd be fair to say if someone had a vehicle right here in front of you, you'd be able to tell just by looking at it for a couple of seconds the make, the model, and the year.
generally,
Depending on what
I couldn't
vehicle
say
it
it's a
is, yeah,
2017
quite
or
likely. I'm
2018 Ford
decent with
Escape,
vehicles.
but I could tell you it's a 2010
mean by
versus a
decent?
2022.
I can recognize many vehicles that are manufactured. Part of being a police officer is dealing with vehicles.
I mean,
We run a
he
lot
said
of
he said
vehicle
it's a Ford
registration
Escape.
plates.
It was
So
a
we
Ford
match
Escape.
the registration to a
That's
vehicle on a
easy
response.
to identify if you're halfway
accustomed to the
familiar
many
with
different vehicles that
cars.
are manufactured.
Did you at any time see the registration of the vehicle that passed you?
The registration.
Like I stated
He
previous,
said he saw the license plate.
I
He wouldn't
debriefed with
see the
Detective
VIN
Casey
number on the
during the incident.
windshield.
He stated that
on the
I gave him a
dashboard.
registration number, a registration plate for it. I do not recall giving him that registration plate, but Detective Casey informed me that I provided him a correct license plate for that vehicle.
Would it be fair to say that a registration kit would it be fair to say that that automatically links to the make and model and year of the car? Would it
If
be
you
fair to
look
say
it
that?
up in the
That
computer,
if you ran, or if we're
he
judging
didn't
by the
run
license plates,
it.
if you
He
were conducting a stop,
how does this
And
matter?
to do that, you will
He
have
knows
to run
that
the
you were
license
in a
plates.
Ford Escape. He
Would it be
saw
fair
you
to say
drive a
that
Ford Escape.
all
He
that
identified
information
a
would
Ford
come up
Escape. He
in your
didn't
computer when
need
you
the
run the license plate?
computer. He didn't need to run
That'd
the
be fair to
license
say?
plate to figure out it was a Ford Escape.
You had a lot of questions right there. So
Okay,
That
let
was
me back up then.
compound.
So if you were conducting a traffic stop
okay,
and you pulled up the license plates of the
He didn't
vehicle that you
pull
were
you
stopping,
over.
okay.
would the information registered to that vehicle show in your computer?
This is irrelevant.
If the
He
license
didn't pull
plate
you
is
over.
actually
He
accurate
didn't
and
run
current
your
to that
license
actual
plate
vehicle,
through the
yes.
computer. He didn't find out from the computer that you were driving a Ford Escape.
Just so we're clear, the information would come up though.
Asked
That is
and
correct.
answered.
It should, as long as the system is working.
And did you have a system or any
He
equipment
didn't
that
run
could
you
have
through it. He said
assisted
the
you in
plate
learning
through
the
the
make and the model
through
and
the radio.
year
That's
of the
it.
vehicle at the time of the incident?
No, I was on foot with no other equipment.
Is he serious here?
So is it fair to say that you did not know that information until later?
He
you
knew
were
that
told
it was a
by
Ford Escape.
Detective Casey
He
or
saw
another
the
detective?
vehicle. He could
No, because like
identify
I
it.
previously stated, I can recognize vehicles pretty well, and I knew it was a Ford Escape, and I knew the approximate year of it.
You did testify that, and you can also see from the exhibit video that
Can
the
he?
front end of the vehicle was damaged. Would that be fair to
Oh
say?
yeah,
That is correct.
a lot of
And
damage.
you can still make out the make and model and year of the
The
vehicle
rear end
with
is
extensive
distinct.
damage.
He saw the rear
is
end
correct.
distinctly as he
Could you
was
see the
firing at
emblem
it.
of the vehicle at that point?
I don't recall if I saw an emblem or not. I know the body style of the vehicle, and I knew it was a Ford
Exactly.
Escape.
The body style is
Would it be fair to say
distinct.
that many SUVs have the same type of body build?
a Ford of that size
I'm sure some
looks very
vehicles do look
different
similar.
from a Chevy of that size, which looks very different from
So
a
that, would it be
Mercedes
fair to
of
say
that
that there's a
size.
possibility that you
No,
could not make out the make and model and
No.
year of the vehicle,
He
especially with it
identified
being
it.
extensively damaged to the front?
He identified it.
No, I was confident that it was a Ford Escape.
Besides which, it's the vehicle you were seen fleeing from by an earlier
Did
witness.
you notice any tints on that vehicle?
The front windshield that I looked through, I know was not tinted, or it was not tinted enough to not make me recognize you.
Did you see any tints on the side of the vehicle?
Not that I recall. And if they were, they weren't that dark.
You don't recall though, for sure, if there were any tints to any
That's
windows
what he
of the
just
vehicle you
said.
saw.
Well, all windows are tinted to some extent. It just depends on to what percentage of tint that they come with. So I'm sure there is tint on the windows because vehicles come from the factory with some level of window tint. So I guess to your question, was there any window tint? I'm sure there was, but not to a degree that would prevent me from seeing who was driving it.
Or from seeing your silhouette from
Explain
behind.
what you mean by tint percentage.
So
He
there's
said
different
tint
varying degrees
percentage.
of tint that you can put on vehicles.
Which is the percentage of
Can you
light
elaborate for the
that
jury?
can pass through. And he's not an
Wow.
expert witness on tint.
I'll overrule the objection. Mr. Brooks, please ask your question again.
You stated that all
That's
cars
only
come from the
Scottish
manufacturer with
gingers,
some level of
Steve.
tint, but you made a reference to percentage.
Correct.
Can you elaborate on percentage? What would constitute a darker tint versus a lighter tint?
Well, you've asked two questions now, so which one do you want him to answer first?
The last one, I'm sorry.
So you're asking about
About
lighter
the 10
versus darker.
percentage, about the 10 percentage.
So like a 50% tint would be a lighter tint than like a 35% tint.
So the
5%
lower
tint
the
means
percentage,
only
the darker
5%
the
of
tint.
light
That is
passes
correct.
through.
Okay.
90% tint means 90% of light passes through. So the lower the number, the darker the tint.
You stated that you're pretty decent with making out make and model and years of vehicles based on your line of work. Would that be fair to say?
That is correct.
Would you know of the make and model of the vehicle that you saw that day?
Yes, it was a Ford Escape.
Would you know if those model vehicles come from the manufacturer with any tint?
He said he thinks all vehicles have some degree of tint.
To be honest with you, I don't work for Ford, so I don't know if they come with tint, but I would assume as most vehicles, when they come from the factory, they come with some sort of tint. I believe usually the front is approximately 50% tint and the rears are usually, I think, 25 or 30 or something like that.
The fronts wouldn't be 50.
So from your knowledge, the backer windows
They-
are you
The
usually
backer windows,
coming from
the
the
backer
manufacturer,
windows.
maybe a little bit darker than the front.
Correct.
No further questions.
oh,
Very briefly, thank you. So the barricades that we saw at the intersection where you were posted, those have been blown over by the wind?
Yes. So when I deployed the barricades initially, standing upright, they kept on blowing directly, like right off the street. So I tipped them down on their sides so they wouldn't, I guess, catch as much wind and they wouldn't blow all over the place.
Did those barricades appear to slow down the SUV as it drove through them?
Objection, speculation.
it's not speculation. It's his
Overruled, he
observation.
may answer, given all of the cross.
No, it did not slow the vehicle down at all.
You discharged your firearm 3 times toward the vehicle?
That is correct.
Did all 3 rounds strike the vehicle?
Yes, they did.
Can we please put up for the jury exhibit number 3, which has previously been published?
Go ahead.
We're going to start at the 2-minute and 59-second mark if we can, and while we're working on that, can we please clear the screen down? Thank you.
What exhibit is that?
3.
We're at the 2:58 second mark on this exhibit number 3. Do you see a vehicle on the screen?
Okay, this
Yes,
is
I do.
from the
Does that
domestic
appear to be the
incident.
same color of vehicle you saw
Ex-girlfriend.
drive through the intersection where you were posted?
We saw
Yes.
this first
Let's
day
play
of
from the
testimony,
second, please.
or second day, because I think it was when the ex-girlfriend testified.
Pause. We paused at 3:02. Does that appear to be the same make and model as the SUV you saw driving through
And
the
it appears to
intersection?
be a Ford
Objection.
Escape.
Overruled.
It's clearly
Yes, it
tinted.
does.
Is there a difference between this vehicle and the vehicle you saw?
Yeah, this one
At
doesn't
your
have
intersection?
damage to the front end.
The difference in the vehicle is that there's no damage on this one.
Okay, let's play again from this point.
Oh, there's a light gray hoodie that got out of the driver's seat and is confronting the ex-girlfriend and her roommate and a friend. Wow. And he pushes her. This doesn't look good for him, and it's another opportunity for the jury to see, oh, wow, he's a violent person. He committed domestic assault of the woman that he committed SR to when she was 15 and they had a
3 minutes and
child.
47 seconds. Did you see a person wearing a
And
gray
he was
hooded sweatshirt in that
24.
clip?
Yes, I did.
Was the appearance of that person and their clothing consistent with the person you saw driving the SUV through your intersection?
Objection, speculation.
It's not
to
speculation,
defense.
it's his observation.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Yes.
Can we please put up for everybody exhibit number 120, which has previously been received?
He's so ridiculous. Ugh.
Go ahead.
Okay. You see the photograph on the screen in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Does that
Objection.
appear to be a vehicle consistent with the one you saw driving through your intersection?
Still a Ford
Yes.
Escape.
And the person seated in the driver's seat, does that look like the same
Still
person you saw
Darrell
driving that
Brooks.
red SUV?
Yes.
We put up for everybody, please, exhibit number 9.
Go ahead.
You see
It's
the
almost like
photograph
they're
on the screen
showing
in front
his
of you?
progression
Yes.
through the
Does that appear to
parade.
be the same vehicle that you saw driving
Oh,
through the
wow, look at
intersection
that hood.
of, Wisconsin
It's
and
got
Maine?
a 90-degree
hearsay.
angle in it
Overruled. The witness may answer.
and a damaged
Yes.
fender.
Does that appear to be the same driver of that
And
same
the
vehicle?
driver's side
Objection,
window is
hearsay.
down.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Yes.
Will you please put up for everybody exhibit number 169, which has previously been published?
Go ahead.
Objection, relevancy.
Overruled.
See the photograph on the screen in front of you?
Yes.
Does that appear to be the same vehicle that you saw drive through the intersection of Wisconsin and Maine?
Yes.
Does that appear to be the same driver?
He did his
Yes.
best. Oh, wow,
What's
look.
going on with that front
Even
passenger
more
window?
damage.
Looks like
Objection,
it's,
leading.
It's not leading.
Overruled. The witness
And
may
look,
answer.
that front passenger
looks
window's
like it's
down
rolled
too.
down.
So if someone had, before this incident, painted that window black, covered it in a black paper bag, and taped it up with duct tape, and then rolled the window down,
Would
that
the
have
tint have
prevented
been
you from seeing through
seen?
the front
Would-
passenger window?
Would
Objection,
it
speculation.
have obstructed your view?
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Who was the person depicted in exhibits number 120, number 9, and number 169?
Darrell
Darrell
Brooks.
Thank you.
Objection, I do not consent to being called that name.
Who cares? He could have said
Objections
the
noted.
gentleman
Jury is
sitting at the
advised to
defense
disregard
table.
as it's not testimony. It's a comment. All right. Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Oh,
And I appreciate the patience of everyone as we concluded with that witness. We will now take our lunch break. It's 12:58. I'll give the jurors, I'll have the parties come back at 2 o'clock and the jurors probably shortly after that.
all right.
So, thank you, everyone. Please rise for the jury.
That's 56 minutes from now. Oh. I'm assuming he's going to argue before they go to break, though, once the jury's out. So I won't kill the stream quite yet. that was
No.
a great witness.
All right,
That
please be seated just very briefly with the parties.
oh my.
Just witnesses for this afternoon. I don't need to know who, just the numbers and if there's anything else you are asking the court to do this afternoon.
No, we're behind schedule, Judge, but
Of
we'll
course.
keep moving along. We will certainly have a full slate of witnesses available for the afternoon. Do you know about how late you intend to go tonight?
Of course they're behind schedule.
I'd like to try to keep it as close to
Brooks takes
4:35 as
so
possible,
much
given that it is a
time.
Friday. It's been a long week. Any idea when?
It's not the
you'll be
prosecution's
requesting
fault
the
they're
view of the
behind.
Vehicle? Will that be next week?
That will definitely be next week, probably Tuesday.
Yeah, roll your eyes.
All right, thank
Roll
you.
your eyes,
Thank you.
Brooks.
All right, then that answered my question about scheduling, so everyone is aware of what we intend to do this afternoon. We are in recess. I'll see everyone at 1 o'clock. I'm sorry, at 2 o'clock. It's now almost 1. Thank you. We are.
Wow. What a morning. What a morning. I am surprised he stayed in the courtroom. I thought for sure after that outburst to start the day that he'd be removed. Of course, the day is long. He'll have every opportunity after lunch to cause disruptions, and I'm sure he'll do his best. And he'll do it right as the jury's called in. Because it's what he does. It's just what he does. But with that, I'm going to kill the stream. I will be back with the afternoon stream in about 50 minutes. So I'm gonna go enjoy my lunch. You guys enjoy your break, and I'll see you shortly. Oh, and I know you already have, but do all the YouTubey things: like, subscribe, share, comment. Yeah. I'll see you shortly. Thanks for hanging out this morning.